Nope, they get too close. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start this study session today. I'd like to call to order the joint special study session of the City Council and Ad Hoc Water and Sewer Rates Study Committee for Monday, April 7th at 4:33 p.m. Mr. Reynolds, roll call for the City Council, please.
Committee Member Beauchamp, Committee Member Bowen, Committee Member Riley, Committee Member Smith.
Here.
Mr. Swain.
Here.
Council Member Lau.
Present. When you guys are talking.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Hepburn.
Present.
And we also have absent Castelfagita and Crosby.
Tonight's study session topic is the Water and Sewer Rate Study Update. This presentation will provide both groups with an understanding of the city's current financial position in these enterprise funds and look at some of the steps to be taken to ensure long-term sustainability of the systems. There is no action nor vote tonight on this issue. This is a presentation by our consultant based on the progress to date and a look at the different scenarios. If we were to stay status quo, solve our long-standing issues at once, or implement another path forward to make sure our water and sewer operations are viable. Mr. Wright, will you please, Mr. Wright from Ruftalis, please come forward.
Thank you. Council, thank you for having me here tonight to present the status of our water and sewer rate study. I do have a pretty extensive presentation that I would like to walk you all through. And is everyone hearing me all right?
Perfect.
Great. So, Mr. Mayor, as you noted, tonight is not something where we're seeking the council to take any action whatsoever. This is really an informative session. And what we would like to focus on tonight are some preliminary water and sewer financial planning scenarios. We do have a large project scope, and there are many things that the city contracted with my firm to do for you. After the financial planning process is the development of cost of service studies to determine how much it costs to serve different types of customers. And then also the consideration of at least one potential rate structure alternative, the development of proposed rates for the period through 2030, and also water and sewer capacity/connection fees. And then finally, assisting you with the Proposition 218 hearing. Fortunately, all of the work that's been done on financial planning rolls nicely into most all of those other tasks and kind of gives us a head start on completing them. So I wanted to just talk a minute about the rate study process. And really, it begins down in the lower left with the rate study, what we would call rate setting framework, which is really working with a client and understanding the situation that they're in with their water and sewer enterprise funds and objectives they have for the funds. And then we move into the financial planning process, which is what we're going to discuss tonight, where we forecast future demand. We ask ourselves, what level of revenue do we believe we're going to earn if we keep existing rates in place? Revenue at existing rates. And then we forecast our future costs. And the difference between revenue at existing rates and future costs is a funding gap. And there'll be a lot of discussion of funding gap tonight. After the financial plan is completed, we move into the cost of service and rate design phase. And then finally, there's a constitutionally enshrined Proposition 218 process, which is listed there sort of under the final rate adoption section of this graph. Now, two things to keep in mind. Number one, down at the bottom, is throughout the entire process, many municipal utilities, many water districts, sewer districts, will conduct an extensive public outreach process, which is something the city's been doing to get stakeholder input. And then on top, you'll notice this arrow that says Proposition 218 compliance. Because Proposition 218 is such an important part of the structure here in California, everything we do needs to be kept, looked at within the context of, is it Proposition 218 compliant? This is sort of a similar slide, but what it looks at is the three major technical steps in a water or sewer rate study. We've already talked about financial planning. The second step, that middle box, is the cost of service analysis. And this is where we try to answer the question, how much rate revenue do we need to collect from different types of customers? And maybe that's commercial versus single family, for example. And we would determine that based on their demand characteristics, what sort of demands they impose on our water and sewer system, and how much it costs to serve those individual customer types. And then finally, the notion, or not the notion, but the third step is rate structure design. What rate should be paid by each customer class? Some utilities will select rate structures where everybody pays a uniform rate that is the same, regardless of what customer type they are. Other utilities will have rate structures that, for example, might be tiered for single-family residential customers and uniform for commercial customers. And there are lots of good reasons why rate structures can differ from type to type. We're not quite there yet, but it'll be something that we'll be focusing on as we move forward in the study. Here's our current project timeline. Tonight we're talking to you about financial planning. It is my firm's hope that by the end of April that we'll have a preliminary cost of service study done. And what that means is how to allocate costs between different types of customers, and also what might rates be for different types of customers. On May 19th, what we would hope to do is to come to council and present you with financial planning scenarios that are fully finalized, with a cost of service study that is finalized, with rates that are finalized, and with example bill impacts, so you can see how different types of customers at different levels of consumption will be impacted in terms of the bill they pay. And then if council was satisfied with the outcome of that process, we would ask you to authorize the issuance of a Proposition 218 notice. And that Proposition 218 notice will describe why you're raising rates, if you elect to raise rates, and what the rates will be through 2030 and how different types of customers might be affected. And usually there is a 2 to 3 week lag between a governing body issuing or authorizing the issuance of Prop 218 notice and then having it finalized and printed and postmarked and sent out to your customer base. If we stayed on that schedule, then what we might envision is you to have a formal Proposition 218 public hearing on August 4th. And this is where you would determine how many protests you received from your customers and whether there were enough protests to prevent you from raising rates, and that would be 50% plus one, or whether there would be enough protests, maybe whatever that percentage is, that would cause you to reconsider. And then finally, if you went ahead and had a public hearing and approved the rates, our timing right now is the rates would become effective on October 1st of this year. Okay, so as we move into the discussion of financial planning, what I have shown on this slide, or what Cameron and I have shown on this slide, are some inflation factors that were applied to your O&M expenses in the financial plans. And I think that probably the three most notable ones to focus on are, number one, down at the bottom of the first table, you see something labeled purchase water. And that is the cost to purchase your water supplies from Three Valleys. And of course, Three Valleys is a member of the Metropolitan Water District. They're a MET member agency. And you notice there an annual inflation assumption of 12%, which tracks with Metropolitan Water District's most recent rate increases. And so what we've done is we have shown that as a going forward cost of water for you. Now, I don't know the specific plans that Metropolitan Water District has for what they're going to be charging in 2030, But I think my recommendation would be it's better to be safe than sorry and expect there are going to be significant increases in purchased water. Another key inflation factor is labeled utilities, which you see at 7.5%. And this is associated with Southern California Edison and what they charge you for electricity. And 7.5% tracks with historical Southern California Edison rate increases and what the California PUC has been authorizing for them. And then right above that is benefits. And there's an assumption of 7% annual increase in benefits. And those benefits are associated with things like health care and also things such as retirement costs. Down below those inflation factors, there's another section of this table entitled account growth. And what you can see is that there's a very conservative assumption of customer account growth on the part of your residential and multifamily customers, basically 3 to 4/10% a year. And that's because Verne is a community that's basically fully built out. And so an important thing to note about that customer account growth is that because it's relatively small, it's not as if every year we're going to be gaining a lot of money from increased water sales due to new customers coming onto our system. Now, within the context of financial planning, every utility has to make a determination of what sort of, I'll call them operational reserves, are needed to mitigate potential risk. So for the water utility, the assumption that's built into the current preliminary financial planning models is that we would like to maintain an cash reserve equal to 90 days of your annual O&M expenses. So, the question is, well, why would we do that? Well, one, there's always a potential in California for drought curtailments, which will limit your ability to earn water sales revenue. There's also the potential of a major infrastructure failure or something going wrong with your a billing system that causes you to not be able to bill for a month or two. And so 90 days O&M is actually a number that's not excessive. It is often used by utilities that have rate structures like you currently do, which is basically a uniform rate structure with elevation zone surcharges. Some utilities that have tiered rate structures where they charge a low rate in Tier 1 and a very high rate in Tier 5 will maintain even larger cash reserves because they're subject to a drop in water sales, if, for example, even if we have a cool, wet summer. Sewer, 60 days of annual O&M expenses is currently the assumption that's built into the sewer financial planning model. Your sewer utility basically just has less risk than your water utility. Because basically what you're sending to LA Sanitation District is non-discretionary indoor water consumption, which is stable throughout the year. Utilities also maintain cash in their capital improvement fund. And a common metric that we use to establish a cash reserve for capital improvement is 50% of the 5-year average of forecast CIP. There's a lot of other ways that you could do it. You could set it at 100% of next year's CIP. You could set it as a percentage of your existing assets. But 50% of next year's CIP is a way to look at establishing a cash reserve that recognizes that your annual CIP expenditures vary. Some years there's very high, some years there's less. And doing a 5-year rolling forward average is kind of a way to deal with that variation. And then finally, we've built into the both financial planning models an assumption of debt service coverage equal to 1.25 times. And let me explain specifically what that is. When you take on debt, often, but not always, the lender or the people that buy your bonds or a state revolving fund loan will have some requirement that you earn enough money so that after you pay your O&M expenses, you will have money available to pay debt service. And the formal calculation is projected revenue less projected debt service is net revenues available for debt service. You divide your debt service into that and you get a debt service coverage ratio. And debt service coverage ratios could be as little potentially, I guess, as 1.0 for general obligation bonds for a really strong issuer, to possibly 1.1, and perhaps for certain types of debt, even higher than that. 1.25 is a fairly common planning standard. Let me apologize to you for the difficulties you see in seeing this, but hopefully you all have hard copies. This is a proposed water capital improvement plan for the period basically 2026. We show 25 on here, but for 2026 through 2030. And I think that there are two key expenditures to note. One is about 5 or 6 lines down, and it's called AMI meter conversion / AMI water loss project. And that is a project that totals approximately $2 million. And then lastly, the very last project on there, which I'm even having a hard time seeing on the big screen I'm looking at. Christy, what's the name of that final project there? Okay, and that looks like that's a $4 to $5 million project. Those are the two biggies in your CIP plan. And my understanding is that staff has spent some time with the ad hoc committee going over projected CIP. This is a look at sewer CIP, and really the primary sewer CIP projects are sewer relining, 2.25 miles per year, and those expenditures start happening in FY 28, 29, and 30, and they do sum to a significant amount, approximately, it would appear, almost $9 to $10 million. Now, the reason I'm highlighting this CIP is for the city of La Verne and for most utilities, capital improvement projects are the key driver of why rate increases might be required or external debt financing might be required. Okay, water financial planning. So why do we need financial planning scenarios? Well, in looking at the situation with the Water Enterprise Fund, we've come to the conclusion that if the city did nothing, if you didn't raise rates, you would find yourselves in a situation where your cash reserve situation for water, which is the combined operating and capital improvement reserve, would be almost negative $50 million by 2030. And we also analyzed the question, what sort of rate increase would be required in water if we wanted to catch up and make the Water Enterprise Fund whole and deal with any existing deficits we have in terms of inadequate revenues and deficits in terms of cash reserves, and also meet our required costs that we forecast through 2030, we think you'd need to implement approximately 110% rate revenue increase in 2026. Well, neither one of those options are realistic. And so we looked at what we think are two more realistic, keyword here is conceptual / preliminary financial planning scenarios. because obviously we seek counsel's input. One is to ask ourselves the question, what would happen if we had rate increases and didn't use debt financing? And then the second scenario, what would happen if we had a combination of rate increases and we sought $7 million in debt financing? And where that $7 million comes from is basically the cost of the AMI conversion and the major treatment plant project that we talked about a couple slides ago. So here is a scenario where we have rate increases, but we don't have any external debt financing. And basically the revenue adjustments you see there start at 35% in 2026, 30% in 27, and then they run through 2030. And the outcome of having rate increases of that magnitude is that they're not enough for us to have ending cash reserves that are positive and above zero. The only point when we get ending cash reserves that are above zero is out in 2030. And what happens when you have rate increases? They sort of build forward, they sort of compound on each other, which is why out by 2030, having this series of rate increases, which are a cumulative 179%, you finally get positive cash reserves. And then remember, we talked about financial targets, the notion of 90 days of annual O&M, 50% of projected 5-year CIP. And what you see there in the last line in this slide is something called variance from combined target. This is how far away we would be from meeting these reserve targets that are intended to mitigate risk. So this profile of rate increases does not work. So let's look now at a graph of this scenario. And it's a little bit complex, but what you're looking at where you see the blue bars are projected total expenses. And those would be O&M expenses, debt service coverage, and what capital you can finance through rate revenues, sometimes referred to as PAYGO, CIP. The solid black line is revenues at existing rates. That's why it's stable. The dotted black line is what projected revenues would be if you implemented the series of rate increases shown on the previous slide. And what happens is that in years 25, 26, a little bit in 27 and 28, our revenues aren't enough to cover our costs. But by the time we get out to FY30, we're finally earning enough revenue to cover our projected costs. And what is below this graph, in a table directly below the graph, is what we forecast our ending cash reserves would be under this scenario. So every year that our revenues aren't enough to cover our costs, we reduce our cash reserves. In those years like 2030 where our revenues are enough to cover our costs, we increase cash reserves. What we wanted to show you on this slide with that table down below is what your projected ending cash reserves would be. Okay, scenario number 2, and this is the scenario that features a $7 million external debt financing, which would be received in FY26 and would be used once again for the AMI meter conversion and the major treatment plant expenditures that you have. And it basically has the same profile of rate revenue increases as we used in scenario 2. And what you can see is when debt financing comes online, we do have ending cash reserves, even starting in FY26, that are positive and above zero. We still don't have cash reserves that are adequate to meet our risk mitigation targets, but our variance is not as bad as in scenario 1. And actually, when we get out to FY 2030, you see that we have a positive variance when compared to our target. So, in effect, what happens is the scenario with no external debt just doesn't work. And it sort of drives us to this conclusion that, if possible, the city should consider potential external debt financing. Here is a graph of that scenario 2, and what you'll see is that it looks very similar to the graph you saw in scenario 1. In the early years, we don't have enough revenue to offset our costs, and therefore we draw down our cash reserves. When we get into, finally, in 2030, we do have enough revenues to offset our costs. And the table that's at the bottom showing the projected ending cash reserves is much more positive because we had that $7 million infusion. Sewer, we only looked at one financial plan. Your sewer enterprise fund is perhaps in a stronger financial position than your water enterprise fund. So we only looked at rate increases, no external debt financing. And that projection of rate increases, as you can see there in that slide, is 10% for 3 years, followed by 2 6%. That even potentially, I think, could be shaved down a little bit and not be quite as high as what you see. The good news is that under that profile of rate increases, you do have ending positive cash reserves in the sewer enterprise fund, and you have cash in excess of your risk mitigation target. This graph basically shows the same thing as the two water scenarios. But what I do want you to note, and this is actually an important thing to note, I'm struggling. I know I need to speak into the microphone, but I so much want to run up there. And if you look at the table below the graph and you look at FY25 ending cash reserves, you see a value of $14.9 million. And that's because your sewer enterprise fund right now has a significant amount of cash reserves. It's very good. And then you see as we go along the timeline through 2030, those cash reserves fall all the way to $3.8 million. And that's why when you look at the graph up above, in 2028, 2029, and 2030, you see a lot of gray. Remember, what that gray is that's the difference between revenues and total costs. When the gray is below zero, it means that your costs are a lot more than revenue and you're drawing down cash reserves. So with the profile of rate increases, I hope I can figure out how to go backwards, that I've showed you here, which I indicated to you maybe could be lowered just a little bit, even those increases do really take your sewer fund from being flush with cash to having $3.8 million. And of course, these financial planning scenarios are dynamic. To the extent we modify CIP, to the extent we modify an inflation assumption, to the extent we change our target cash reserves and annual rate revenue increase, everything moves in time. But this is the one sewer scenario we felt kind of showed you that currently have a good level of cash reserves in sewer. There's a profile of rate revenue increases, but it will draw that cash reserve down over time. Okay, what might be the next steps? Well, I laid out a schedule at the start of this presentation, and maybe I should have put the schedule back here instead of up front, but obviously we're showing you these financial plans, and they have some big numbers. And so I think what we really need is council feedback associated with these financial planning scenarios and the overall situation in your water and sewer enterprise funds, and how you wish to move forward. And then, of course, would become cost of service, proposed rates. Customer outreach has been a continuous process, and then the development of the Prop 218 notice. That's my presentation. I'm sure you'll have many, many questions.
And Mayor, if I may, we have not enough mics for individuals to speak, so if you guys could share, or I have a handheld that I could bring over if that's problematic.
First of all, I just want to thank you guys. I know this has been arduous at Beth, and especially the fact that we have to increase rates somehow or another because of the fact we haven't been keeping up to pace, although our sewer fund looks much better. Still, at the end of the day, we're to be in a better position. The water's a whole different story, so I thank you guys for that, and this is the input we needed to have so that we come back to council, come back to our community, and figure out what avenue we're going to take. So, Bo Ciampa, kick it off to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have several questions. On page 7 of the presentation, where the account growth is residential, you say that the city is pretty much built out, but there are still numerous additional homes and units that are going to be built within the city of Laverne because they have to maintain the RENA numbers for the state of California. So was any of that projection included? And then my second question is, on the Prop 218 notifications, is that a separate card or postcard or notice sent, or is that something that is included in the existing water bill?
I believe it's, I do not have an answer for your first question.
Okay.
And so that 0.34 customer account growth was not specifically developed kicking into any state of California regulatory requirements.
Okay.
As it relates to the Prop 218 notice, it's usually sent out separately.
Separate. Okay. And my final question is, on page 15, regarding the external debt finance costs, were any of the costs for financing included in those numbers, or is that strictly the $7 million of the loan itself? There's no interest or?
Oh, yes, ma'am, there is. And the assumption on that $7 million debt financing was 5% over a 20-year amortization schedule. And so the debt service associated that was included as a cost.
Okay.
In addition to the receipt of the $7 million, which would be immediately turned around to pay for CIP.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to try Cameron Oakey, I believe, is also with Raftelis. He's got his hand up. Looks like he may want to speak as well. Cameron, like you're talking, but we can't hear you. speaker. Yeah, it's up. Okay. Cameron, go ahead and try again. Cameron, I've tried to invite you as a panelist. Could you try accepting that, please? His video's off. He's not muted. Or was that work?
Plug it back in. It's fine.
I haven't. Yeah, go ahead and.
Go ahead.
Council, yeah, I have a few questions. And pardon me, my voice is shot. We received this as a committee a few days ago. I don't know if you can hear me. And so tonight's the first time we're actually seeing it and hearing from the presentation. I'm curious on page 7, where the inflation account, I'm curious what this would look like for the last 5 years, because a flat line of the same percent in every category over the next 5 years just seems a little odd. Seems a little simple. If you look at the generals, 3, salaries are 5 for 5 years.
That's kind of standard.
Sorry?
What was it 5 years previous? Is that correct? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I wonder
What
what
does it
this
look
would
like?
look like for the last 5 years, because it
No, I
just
understand.
seems odd that it's
Seems
the
pretty
same
stru-
for
seems-
5 years.
Seems pretty structured.
Yeah.
And similar.
So that would, I mean, those factors have quite an effect on the expenses. And the purchase water, like what percentage of each one of these, when we show general and salary in each one, out of a total? And I like numbers. So out of $100, what would these equate to? So percentages are one thing, numbers are another. You did explain the difference between the water and the sewer on page 8. Thank you. One of the biggest questions I had when I initially got it, I looked over a 5-year period, and we've had this discussion as part of the committee, and there's been hardly any CPI projects over the last 5 years. And then you look at the one that I think Ryan presented to us, goes out fairly small, and in I think 2030 it went to $50 million or something. It was crazy. If I'm wrong there, feel free to correct me. I don't have those papers in front of me, but it was huge, a huge jump in like the end of a 5 or 6 year period. The question I really have is, we haven't raised prices, right? That's why we're here. This will double the water cost of, according to this, whoever gets water in the city, if we just take this flat line projection. That's a lot. in 5 years, you go up 35% next year. If you're spending $100, you're now going to spend $135. The year after that goes up 30. You go from 135 to 175. It's even a bigger raise the second year, even though it's a lower percent. Next year goes to 210. So 3 years from now, if you're spending $100, a customer like I am, I'll spend $210. That seems like a lot of money real quick. And it doesn't end there. I projected that in 5 years, if you spend $100 today, 5 years from now, you spend $266. That just seems inconceivable, quite frankly. And again, I won't go through the rest, but I'm still curious why I saw some numbers that we keep borrowing from the reserves for operational, because they go over every year on their operational expenses. They don't spend it on the CPI projects that were projected but never spent, but they borrow that money to go into operational because all the overhead, everything is much higher than projected. So I'm always curious when I see a projection like this, and then you go back to history, and none of it's really matched up, if that's the right phrase. Operational always seems to be over, and it takes precedence to CPIs, which are the foundation, the pipes and everything running under us today. And that kind of worries me because we have an older infrastructure, and we really, at least as far as my experience so far in the committee, we haven't spent money fixing or anticipating issues. And at 30, 40, as Ryan's pointed out, we have a system that's 30, 40, 50 years old. When something goes wrong and you don't get any water, that's going to be a problem. Electricity is one thing. Water, you heard in the fires, you heard in everything else. That's a big deal. So I am a little concerned of our projections because they don't always match up. But thank you so far for your input.
So first off, I just want to thank staff and the consultant for taking the time to put all this together. I just had a question, and I think it may be for either of you. But some of the CIP projects, they align with some of our water flow that we needed to update for like fire hydrants and fire department stuff. And then some of them were benefits for like the last project on 6th and Wheeler that's supposed to reduce our redundancy or our reliability on imported water. When do we start to realize some of those benefits from the app and then that water treatment center? And how do those get baked into these estimates?
Facility would immediately reduce our redundancy for the need for Three Valleys water, which would immediately make our Three Valleys bill lower. We would have an increase in electrical costs, which wouldn't be an offset. It still would be to our advantage to pump our own water and blend less. With that treatment facility, we would be able to do so. So there would be immediate return on investments. Whether that's included in the study or not, I'm not fully aware. Whether how much of a difference it would make annually. We haven't even begun the study, or it hasn't been engineered, or even it's not even preliminary stages of the project. Yep.
I'd like to thank everybody that worked on this also for the information. I am surprised. I understand the factors that go into it, but I am surprised that over 5 years it's going to be 166% rate increase. I think to help the council and the community better understand that, kind of like Mr. Bowen said, it would be nice to see how much the average bill is going to go up. That helps, especially the community, understand what's going on. Also, I think it would be beneficial to find out how Laverne compares to the cities around it. So if you show that Laverne still has lower rates than the cities around it, or if they're higher or not, it could be beneficial. If we're still low compared to the cities around us, it's easier to digest those increases. But I think that's really important to show where we compare, and then we can also see how staff and the council and everybody is doing. I also, not to call out anything, but on the sewer increase on page 19, I saw that the revenue adjustments would be 42%, but the cumulative was 49. I was wondering, is it 42 or 49?
Can you tell me?
19. Or I could be reading it wrong. Correct.
I have to apologize.
Okay. But it should be 42 probably.
So on the water rate increase slide, which is slide 13, you can see 26 and 27 is 35% and 30%, right? If my math adds up correctly, that's only 65%, but it adds up to 75% there, which is why when you were adding your numbers, they got so inflated. I don't know that these bottom numbers are correct for the cumulative adjustments, or it may be the way that it impounds, right? The interest, or the way that the percentage is impounding. 30% of now 135 would come out to a higher number than just adding them together.
But I think
correct.
you point out a very good thing, which is it will be important to check the cumulative calculation. I guess one question that arises from some of your earlier comments is, what communities do you think are comparable, as council believes comparable? And I also want to point out that when those communities are identified, and hopefully we can identify what types of rate revenue increases they're projecting, that information is going to be colored by a couple things. It's going to be colored by what sort of water supplies do they have? Are they tied to the Met system, or do they have their own groundwater? It's also going to be colored by what their spending history was and what level of rate revenue increases their governing body has adopted in the past. And so comparing percentage rate increases going forward, I think it will be an interesting thing, but I want us to realize it's not necessarily apples to apples without all of the underlying context.
Thank you for that. I do understand that, but I also know that we could find similar entities that could be compared to and stuff. And there are ones around here that are like that. In other cities, we have done the comparisons and gave that to the community and the council, and it was much easier to understand and digest.
Thank you. Raymond.
I also want to start off thanking all the community input that we've gotten over the last several months, and my committee members for being diligent and working through the information that is here. I'd like to hit a couple of points that some have been hit already, but try to stack them in a little bit more. On the inflation cost for the purchased water, that's on slide number 6. Basically, it was presented as the 12% is Three Valleys cost. And as we noted, Brian, that we should have less reliance on Three Waters over time and more internal pumping. And so I would think that that accumulative percentage ought to go down over time and being stagnant at the 12%.
Yeah, that wouldn't change their percentage rate increase. Our usage would decrease, but their percentage would still increase the same amount. 11.5 or 12% is what they've been historically climbing. Whether our usage would determine our final dollar amount that we pay them every year, but their percentage would still increase the same.
Okay, so that would be good to have a line in here to say what is our actual water cost going to be. We're going to try to blend this with a variety of sources. What is our water cost going to be?
Yes.
Just looking at this, somebody would surmise that that's going to be 12% forward.
Right.
That should not be.
Yeah, so their rate will increase 12%. Our reliance on them may reduce our spending with them on our actual account balance annually.
Okay, good. And then as Rick and others have pointed out, that it'd be good to put this into real numbers for citizens. So what is my unit cost today for a meter? What is my unit cost for water? How much exact dollars would go up? And I know some of these are going to be average numbers, but when we talk to people, they want to know how much is my water and sewer going to go up, and even percentages. That's kind of a scary number, and real numbers maybe even more scary. People budget by real dollars, not by percentage. It'd be nice to know what the real dollar. I'm concerned with the financing debt costs. If we did that particular model, that's on page 15. Anytime the city or anybody, school board, finances a bond over time, that cost just accumulates and becomes so much more expensive than just the original project, but it just pay-as-you-go kind of. I think we really ought to look at the pay-as-you-go model a little closer. The bond kind of takes some of the initial hurt off, but I mean, you're paying for 20 years. I'm hoping to be around for another 20 years, but I think we ought to be taking a look at what the true cost is over time. And then as we go back to the very original scheduling, which was on page 6, you had mentioned that there would be full scenarios presented to, I believe, the council on June 3rd. Does this scenario show any additional ad hoc committee meetings, ad hoc committee only meetings between now and that next June presentation? Or May? Yeah.
So the ad hoc committee meetings are not on there. The committee was supposed to be basically done by June. So those meetings will have to come at a later time since we've extended the date. So this just covers their timeline. It doesn't cover our timeline.
It would be nice to be able to know what our timeline is.
We have to meet to go over that, and then we actually won't know anything until we actually get the next round, which would be the rates. So that would be sometime in May.
I'll put that on
I know we're trying to work around.
There's some ish in there.
a lot of ish. That's it for me.
I think we brought up a lot of good points. I think some of the main points are making sure the numbers are correct on your percentage, first of all. Also checking with the scenarios with the other outlying areas that have a similar system to us as how much water we use, like 28%. Probably Claremont's not good because they use Golden State's the most expensive water in the world. So probably not ideal, but I'm sure we can find a comparable city with what their rates are. I would like to see what our rates have been, like we said, and what they're going to be. The scenarios you've given, I mean, obviously we have a couple things. I think the rates as far as the water. Being in this for a while now, I'm not opposed to the financing portion of it. I think we should go more, not less. Maybe a 10 million finance. I think those numbers to see what they are. We do this all the time with debt, just depending on how we do it. Yes, we have to pay for that debt service, but I think it's important that we look that out, because that is a way to find and they fund these all the time, especially for these large projects. You get a $40 or $50 billion project. There's no way in God's world that we can get that kind of money. But again, at the end of the day, I think our residents, obviously, I really appreciate input from the committee, and you do need to be involved in this, especially when they come down to what these actually are going to cost, and especially our senior residents, large senior population, including myself. And I think it's very important that coming on fixed incomes, that we need to know what they're paying. The water's the big one. That's obviously the sewer. I'm not as concerned about. I think I would like to see on the other, and this is just an idea. We have the 10%, which is 26, 27, and 28. I would say the 10% increases are not unbearable. I would say that we, instead of the 6%, I would go with the 10% on each one, for the simple fact that we need to have our rates, instead of keeping going back to the well, and this is the frustrating part for me. I've been on the council for 10 years, and now Steve was on previous, and probably for Wendy also, is the fact that we've talked about this for a long time, and hard to catch up when people, especially in our present situation right now, where our economy is in a big flux. 401ks are damaging right now, and people's situations that it's just a shame that we're doing it now, which is great. I've always been frustrated the fact, why weren't we catching up with this as we go along? We should have been doing this years ago, just like our lighting landscape maintenance districts that aren't keeping up with the pace. So we're at a good spot now to do this. Unfortunately, it's going to be catch up. And I just think that we need to be very careful how we do that, make sure that our numbers are right on, make sure we do comparisons. Not opposed to the sewer as far as increasing it to 10%. That's just a discussion with the committee. It's not a big one, but we need to have these flushed. These CIPs are very important, and water is going to become an issue. As Mr. Bowen had pointed out, some of our systems are 70, 80, 90 years old, and they are not going to survive, and that's where you see a lot of sleeving and things like that, which they're doing on the Golden Hills project. But at the end of the day, that may not work. You know, some of these pipes are from the original day. Yeah, I know, original day, but like I say, I think I've kind of push it over to you guys. I think we've got a number of things here. We just got to make sure we're transparent, make sure that we understand what we're doing with our rates, make sure that we're comparable surveys with our cities. Look at that survey rate to maybe increase that, but also look at the financing and the debt obligation to push it up in order we can get some more money in order to pull that down a little bit. You know, obviously we're going to pay the debt financing, but to pull that down a little bit, maybe it'll make the rates a little easier. But we do need to catch up soon, and it needs to start immediately because we are way behind the 8 ball. And what's our Ryan, what's our water? 27, 28%?
Last year we're at
26. We could capitalize on that and reduce that.
If I could add two things on the debt financing, these projects since 2020, we've seen the cost of projects skyrocket, right? By locking in now, yes, you're financing the debt over time, but the cost of the project will be considerably less now as it will be in 2030 when we have the cash available.
Good point.
The second thing was, I forgot what was your second point there, Mr. Mayor?
Just the rates and the comparisons with other ones and the water we supply.
Oh, yeah. So as you said, Golden State, who serves Claremont and even Verne residents here in Fox Glen, they are extremely higher than what we have in Laverne. Laverne residents have been fortunate enough to pay a lower rate for a very long time. Unfortunately, the infrastructure has been aged to the point where we have to make changes now. There is the CPI index, which would be great going forward to base annual rate increases off of that, 3 to 3.5%. But as we're seeing with Edison and imported water costs going up 7 and 11%, even those CPI index increases annually wouldn't be enough to sustain going forward. It would still take a in-depth rate study every 5 to 10 years to make sure we're on the right track. The only thing is it would be a much less of a hit to the community every time.
Incrementally.
Mm-hmm.
Pro Tem Johnson.
One of my concerns with water is that we have plenty of redundancy to access water. I was on the council previously when the Three Valleys Miramar facility shut down. We had to get emergency connections to Weymouth. I want to make sure that we have that capacity and we don't lose that capacity. Water is essential to everyday lives and to maintain that resource.
Yeah, so in the last 24 months, that Hillcrest connection to the Weymouth treatment plant, which is not actually connected to Weymouth, it's connected to the joint water line, which feeds Roland and Walnut Valley. So we actually would have to be purchasing the water not directly from Met and Weymouth, but from, so if we don't go through Three Valleys, the water comes from Walnut, Roland joint line. That water is 75% more expensive than Three Valleys water. That's why it's an emergency connection. Yes, it's there. It's a 60-inch pipeline that goes down Wheeler. We can get all the water we want out of it in case of emergencies, but it is strictly for emergencies due to the drastic cost increase. And that is just another local agency that is putting that charge on their customers. The Roland and Walnut customers are paying for that very expensive water that luckily we don't have to pay for.
Wow.
So I'm going to echo my thanks to staff and to our consultants for putting all this information together. I know it's been a long time coming, but I do think the information is good for folks to have. So a couple of things I wanted to point out that some other folks have pointed out, but I want to add a little bit to it. On page 7 or on slide 7, where we're talking about the percentages, I'd like to have a little bit more detail about how, again, these percentages were calculated, including, as was indicated, the state of the economy today. I know that that's not going to be a perfect crystal ball. Everything is in flux, but I would think that there was going to be significant increases that maybe are not accounted in here. So if we could take a look at that and make sure that we're identifying that correctly. I want to just be clear that good data in is good data out. Bad data in is bad data out. So I want to make sure that we're on top of that. As far as the scenario, the comparison between scenario 1 and scenario 2, I think going down this path as we are learning and understanding how things work, I really think we need to make clear why the debt financing, as Mayor indicated, is something that we really need to look into and take a hold of, because it's not going to be feasible to just say we're not going to do it, because these numbers in red with no cash reserves, that doesn't account for any emergencies that could happen, any fluctuations that could happen that could leave us in a real big lurch. So I would echo that I would like to see what we could do with that debt financing and what that looks like over time. And then I think as we go forward too, I'd like to see what our plan is for educating the public, because I do think it is a complicated issue, because a lot of us pay our bills and we don't necessarily think about all the background that comes with it. And so to get hit with an increase, we're used to regular increases over time because of inflation. This is going to be something that's different. And I think it's important for people to understand that. I think to the extent that we are able to compare, I am an advocate of comparing with other cities. However, apples to apples, we cannot just look at numbers and say, oh gosh, this city only pays this much for water and we pay how much? That's ridiculous. We also offer things in our city that aren't offered in other cities. So I want to make sure that when we're looking at that, we're not just throwing out information just to rile people up or to placate them when that's not going to be accurate. So those are just some things that I think are going to be important. So I do want to thank the committee for sitting through what I'm sure has been a number of fun meetings having to deal with this. But I do want to highlight, too, the importance of our budget overall, and I know we'll talk about that more in our city council meeting, but we talk about these capital improvement projects. There have been times over the years that capital improvement projects have been deferred because other emergencies or other things have come up where we've had to deal with it. And so these are some of the consequences that can happen when we're not on top of that. So I would just ask that we continue to keep an eye on the ball in that respect so that we aren't falling behind in other categories as well. So thank you again.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Lau brought up some good points. We have done an amazing job with our capital improvement projects. As you see all the streets being redone, and it's very important, because if you let it go, as Mr. Ciotti said, the cost of business is going up every single day, and we're in a tariff situation right now where materials are going to become very expensive. Labor's more expensive. It's not going to get any cheaper. And I just want to make sure that the ad hoc committee is involved in all of these meetings to make sure you guys are all boots on the ground, and we really appreciate what you do. I know it takes some time out of your day, but it's important because you need to give us feedback of what's going on. I mean, we're keeping an eye on things, but you guys really need to come back with this, and these are all great suggestions. I think we need to make sure that whatever we give to the public, it's rock solid. It's rock solid, because we're all going to face this. And we knew the rates were going to go up, maybe not as high as we thought. Some are better than others, but at the end of the day, I think I just appreciate all your input. I appreciate staff's input. I think that we're on the right track, but I do want the comparisons, as Wendy said. I think it's really important that we see, but it has to be apples for apples. Kind of an oddity out there, but there's a similar cities just like we are to see what their rates are, how they handled it and tackled it. Mr. Bowen.
On that, especially with looking at other cities and things, that's all well and good if we could show that we're paying less. But what I'm getting at is when somebody gets their bill, I personally don't care what they pay for in Covina. If my bill goes up $50, that's all that matters. And we have a lot of seniors, and we have a lot of people on fixed income. So, that's all well and good, but Councilwoman Lau mentions how we get this to the public. I don't care how you sell it. If you tell somebody their bill's going to go up $30, $40, $50 a month, I sold my whole life. I ain't that good. I hope you are.
Thank you. Any other questions or for the consultant, or are we good? So you'll be getting information on the May-ish meeting? May-ish meeting? Yes. So as soon as you know, you guys will be involved in all the meetings that are concerned with this, and we really appreciate what you do. So, yes.
Just one question then. I know you were going to look at the cumulative numbers and make sure that those were correct. And I think with some of the input that's come from tonight's meeting, will that be incorporated in an updated presentation or updated materials that the committee will get to see and make further recommendations on?
Christy is going to have to answer that question.
Okay.
What I would say to you, though, is, pardon me, whether staff does it or whether you pay my firm to do it, the survey work and the comparison to other communities can certainly be done. I think that the work related to what's behind the underlying assumptions associated with the inflation factors is work that perhaps looks at historic numbers associated with Southern California Edison, for example, or a metropolitan water district. And it's work that tries to find information on what MET or what the California PUC is doing with Southern California Edison. That work can be done. And certainly the check on the cumulative percentage increases can be done. How that's going to be scheduled and presented to the ad hoc committee for their input is a Christie question.
Okay. Christie, do you have an answer that you want to give?
Everything that we receive within 48 hours after we review it before we give it to the committee. So it really depends on when we get it from them.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is we have a timeline that's been proposed in this presentation that anticipates an October start date for whatever increases in rates may happen. And I want to make sure that there's sufficient time between now and then, whatever the decision is, that there's effective communication with our communities to let them understand what those changes may be. And so you may not have an answer, and that's okay, but this is what I'm asking, is that staff go back and look at how long is it going to take to pull this stuff together, how much of it can be done in-house versus the need for the consultant to do it, but in enough time so they can also adequately plan for their May-ish meeting, so that they have the information that they need. So that we can stick to this timeline as much as possible.
We may have to push these dates too.
I understand.
we
might
pushed it.
I think
understand that.
Yeah.
what Councilmember Lau is saying is that the end of April, cost of service, that's not going to.
No.
There's no way.
No, and then we also have, with Raftelis, we have a, so we do have communications person that I will be meeting with this week to put in for 2 community meetings that will be probably held here or maybe the community center, depending on staff and community.
Are these with the numbers that we're proposing or with?
So that I believe it is going to be with the numbers that are going to be proposed, because we have to meet with the community before we even get ready with the Prop 218. We don't want to do the Prop 218 without the community kind of seeing it first.
I think that's what we're really getting to, is the fact that we need to have numbers, solid numbers, figuring out how we're doing it, sewer part financing, or not sewer part, but maybe a rate increase, but also financing arm, give us the options, but with some hard facts that are right on the money.
Correct.
Because otherwise,
Yeah.
we're not going to go to the public, we're not going to approve anything
No.
unless you guys have seen it, we discussed it, we've digested it and brought it out and say, hey, this is what we're looking at,
Yeah.
and we have to either,
So
get on our knees
you
and
guys
pray
will
or whatever.
all see it first before the community. It's just working with Raftellus and with Gina to get the dates aligned. I know Gina's going on vacation sometime in July. So it's just kind of getting all of those dates aligned, because we want Gina present. We want her to be there to help us with the community, and then with John and his team.
Excuse me. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but as I listen to this conversation and all of the great input from the ad hoc committee members, as well as all of our council people here tonight, the notion of coming to you, as you noted, in April or May, with a finalized set of numbers, probably is a bit overly optimistic. And so you can have a January 1st implementation date. And it's up to you as to whether or not you would rather do that than October 1st. But my sense from the council members tonight, as well as the ad hoc committee members, is that this needs to be fleshed out before you ever issue a Prop 218 notice that you would feel comfortable with.
And no rumors going out. We need hard facts and figures. If it's January 1st, it's January 1st. I mean, we just want to make sure it's right. And make sure that we get it to our residents, get our committee first, to us, to our residents, and say, this is what we're looking at. And we have to look at methods for our seniors, if there's methods that we can help them with to offset. There's a lot of things we need to look at. We just can't say you're going to get a 75 or 100% increase on your bill when they're on a fixed income, living in a mobile home community on, they're paying $600 a month rent, and they're getting Social Security of $1,000. I mean, this is just the facts here, so.
I think my last comment about communicating out to the community is, I know you mentioned that the community outreach would most likely happen, here or the community center or the like. I would also think about, is this the right place? Is this the right time? To the point that other people have made, we are a senior heavy community. So is it a meeting in one of the mobile home parks? Is
or
it a
multiple
meeting?
Meetings.
Yeah, or at Hillcrest, or for families with children, is a weeknight a good idea when they're trying to put kids to bed? So I just want to be very thorough about how we're communicating and very thoughtful and intentional about the audiences we're training.
Even if we have to do multiple. Yeah, we've got plenty of places that they'll accept us and bring us in. I know the mobile home communities would more than happy bring us in. Hillcrest, absolutely. But also, like Wendy said, it's got families, and being one of those that used to understand sports, this and that, and you get home at 7:30, 8 o'clock, you're toast. You're toast. And so anyway, I think everybody's got their marching papers, and we really appreciate all the efforts. It's just we're at the precipice now to find out how we're going to do this, how it's going to affect our residents, what our rates are going to be, and good. Thank you. With that, we are going to recess and reconvene at 6:30 p.m. for a regular city council meeting, and it's 5:47 p.m. Thank you all. Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Are you sure? One more time. Oh, thank you, Gigi. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I want to remind everyone that for the city's rules of decorum, all speakers, members of the audience, and council members are to conduct themselves with decorum and not to engage in conduct that interrupts the orderly conduct of the city council meeting. Gigi, okay? You got it, Gigi? No interrupting? Also, public comment through Zoom will only be accepted for the agenda items listed within the consent calendar, public hearing and discussion calendar section of the agenda. General public comments will be accepted at the meeting by those physically in attendance at the appropriate time. Tonight, we are very pleased to have Army veteran Edgar Pulley to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight. Mr. Pulley, please come forward.
Good evening. All personnel in uniform and veterans, please bend their hand salute. Although the rest, put your right hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Wait, please. Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Pulley for, first of all, your service to the country. And also, I know last time you were sick, you couldn't make it, so he's here tonight. So a round of applause for Mr. Pulley. As Commander Phil knows, and also Councilmember Wendy Lau and Mayor Pro Tem Steve Johnson, we are a veteran community, and we really appreciate the veterans. We really appreciate the Band of Brothers 12034. We support all you do. And we will continue to support all you do, but also thank you for your service. What did you do when you were in the Army, sir?
So I was a field artillery officer. I graduated from San Diego State in 2001. Then I was in combat in 2004 as artillery for First ID.
You're here to show that you're here, and we love that. Thank you. Well, this City of Laverne Certificate of Recognition presented to Edgar Pulley. This certificate is presented on behalf of the Laverne City Council to U.S. Army veteran Edgar Pulley with sincere gratitude and appreciation for your dedicated service to our country. Thank you again. Got it. Before our presentations, we have a number of presentations tonight. I want to call forward Elena Robles, the Senior District Rep from Senator Rubio's office. Come on up. Just so you know, Senator Rubio is an absolute friend of the city of Laverne and the numbers of cities she represents in the San Gabriel Valley. She's basically a beacon for us, and she's always making sure that we get funding for our homeless situations, but also for any funding for any of the stuff that we do in our communities that are beneficial to our community members. So we just want to make sure that she knows that we appreciate everything she does, and she's wonderful to our communities. You have the mic.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I have been employed by Senator Susan Rubio for the past 3 months. I'm new to her office, but I was on staff for your former Congresswoman for 20 years. So I know your area, Grace Napolitano, yes. So I worked for her for 20 years. I know how to make it. She taught me the recipe.
You know, that gets contracts, and that gets people way to our side.
Okay, then we'll get that going. So Senator Susan Rubio asked me to take over the city as her field representative because she knew that the relationship was there and that they were a wonderful city. So I said, yes, give me the city of Laverne. I also have other cities, but I will not name San Dimas or, the other cities.
Laverne.
No, just Laverne. Just Laverne. Yeah,
we all work well in the sandbox.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself and let the community know that the Office of Senator Rubio is there to help you and assist you with state agencies. And I'm going to try to come to the community as much as possible. So invite me to everything. Thank you. I'm going to have, I have certificates for everybody that's getting honored today. So congratulations to all of you. There's too many to name, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that the Senator appreciates you all. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, before we go on to presentations, I would like to do a roll call.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yes.
We're going to do it. Thank you. Just so you know, too, that Senator Rubio also, with our wonderful University of Laverne, has been extremely generous, along with former Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, millions and millions of dollars to fund amazing programs for the University of Laverne, along with our city of Laverne and multiple cities in the San Gabriel Valley. She's very well positioned, same as Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, and with Elena, you come with a great background. And the reason I mentioned avocados and guacamole, Congresswoman Grace Napolitano was known for her guacamole. If there was ever an issue with another agency, she would go down with her guacamole, bring it to the different agencies. By then, if she needed something, it was taken care of immediately. It was crazy. So anyway, that's why the guacamole. Roll call.
Yes. Councilmember Rick Crosby is absent tonight. Councilmember Michelle Cachafiguita is absent tonight. Councilmember Lau?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Present.
Mayor Hepburn?
Here.
We are here and can officially do the meeting, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. With that, tonight we have several presentations, as I said. First, we recognize the City of Laverne C Division Youth Basketball All-Stars for their tournament victory. Will coaches Ryan Keynes and Adam Carr and the team please come forward? Do you want to call the team as you come up and give them their certificates? I love this.
Ryan. Not here. Thank you. Thank you. All right, good evening. My name is Ryan Keynes. I had the privilege of coaching these Rascals for a couple weeks. So I'll start first and foremost with Aaron. Next is Carson. Lucas. Levi Valdivia. Mason.
Thank you.
We have Edmund. Lincoln. Benny. Jackson. And last but not least, Kenji. Coach Adam Carr is not here tonight, but he was also a huge help. Chad, thank you for giving us the honor and privilege of representing our community. Like I said, it was short but sweet. We had about 3 weeks together to turn these little guys from some of the best players on their team to working together, working towards one common goal. And we faced some adversity, and we had fun doing it, and hopefully learned some fun life lessons along the way. So congrats, boys.
Listen to Aunt Erin. Aunt Erin knows everything about fixtures. Families, if you want to get up and take pictures, please come up. Come on. Come on, these are your kids. These are moments.
Smile at me first, then I'll tell you to smile at mom. I'm going to get out of the way.
Wait. We're going to do one with us. Hold on, guys. Don't go. Don't go. This way. Squeeze this way. Squeeze. There you go. Listen to Aunt Aaron. Thank you. Here you go. Here. Brian. Fill out. Thank you. Want to do? Oh, no, we're doing. Bye, guys. Different. Let's do. We have three. Introduce this one or this one. Let's just do this. We'll do this one first, then we'll do that one. Okay? You want to do the one? You want to do one? Okay. Let's do the regional centers first. Next, we have a proclamation where we recognize April as Autism Acceptance Month. Please welcome representatives from the San Gabriel Valley Pomona Regional Center and Autism Spectrum Athletics. Are they here tonight? They're separate. We're going to first do the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. There we go. Regional Center. This one. How are you? Good evening. Evening. You guys, thank you. It's another one. That Pomona's a different one.
This is we're both. We'll just put them together.
I think that's kind of what we were asking.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll be 1 hour. I'm going to read all of it. We'll be an hour, but you guys just kick back and relax. City of Laverne, whereas Autism Acceptance Month proclaimed by President Reagan in 1988 recognizes over 5 million Americans diagnosed with autism. And whereas the City of Laverne's Community Services Department strives to provide a wide variety of programs and events for autistic individuals, such as dances, sports programs, swim lessons, and classes offered at the community center and through our partnership with Mount SAC. And whereas the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center is recognized for its excellent programs, support, advocacy, resources for those with autism and their families. And whereas it is diligent effort to provide more recreational opportunities for residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the City of Laverne continues to work in partnership with Autism Spectrum Athletics, an organization committed to providing non-competitive sports programs for children with autism and other related disorders. And whereas Laverne residents of diverse intellectual backgrounds with their invaluable gifts and talents continue to help our community thrive and grow. Now be it proclaimed by the City of Laverne that the month of April 2025 be recognized as Autism Acceptance Month, dated this 7th day of April. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And we do want to recognize Laverne as one of our partners, lifelong partners. We appreciate them partnering with us on social rec, opening swim lessons, and this Saturday there's going to be a chalk art festival. So with people with autism who are going to display their art. So please attend.
Where's that going to be?
City of Laverne.
Oh, it is in the parking lot.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, there you go.
So Saturday, 10 to 4.
10 to 4.
Yes.
It's in the back of our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of them.
You'll see some beautiful artwork with chalk.
Thank you for what you guys do.
We appreciate it. We serve 18,000 people within the San Gabriel and Pomona Valleys. Laverne is one of our 30 cities that we serve. So we appreciate the partnership.
And thanks Senator Rubio, too. She's wonderful. Here, let's get some pictures. Here, come on over here. You want to hold each one? Hold one? Okay. Little confusion up here. We're good though now. Okay. I got it. It's the same. Yeah. Let's see. Next, we honor Bonnie Brunel as Laverne's Oh. Go back. Go back. Okay. You know, a little pre-planning might be a good idea. Come on out. This is Autism Spectrum Athletics, correct? Okay. Would you like to read it, Wendy? It's the same thing. We're going to read it anyway, but thank you, guys. We're ready. Ms. Crosby, go over. Okay. You're Rick's wife. You have to put up with him. This is Rick Crosby's wife, Councilmember Crosby, and she's accepting for everyone. City of Laverne proclamation. Whereas autism acceptance, you're going to hear the same thing, but it's a little different verbiage. But you're still going to hear this. We're going to do it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, thank you. Proclaimed President Reagan in 1988 recognizes the over 5 million Americans diagnosed with autism. And whereas the City of Laverne's Community Services Department strives to provide a wide variety of programs and events for autistic individuals, such as dances, sports programs, swim lessons, and classes offered at the community center and through our partnership with Mount SAC also. The San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center is recognized for its excellent programs, support, advocacy, and resources for those with autism and their families. And it is diligent effort to provide more recreational opportunities for residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The City of Laverne continues to work in partnership with Autism Spectrum Athletics, an organization committed to providing non-competitive sports programs for children with autism and other related disorders. And whereas Laverne residents of diverse intellectual backgrounds with their invaluable gifts and talents continue to help in the community and thrive and grow. Now we be proclaimed the City of Laverne that the month of April 2025 be recognized as Autism Acceptance Month. Congratulations. I think I got it right now. Who would like to say a word?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, everybody, for this recognition that we're receiving tonight. Autism Spectrum was founded about 13 years ago, right here in the local cities of San Dimas, and then, of course, we've also been in Covina, as well as Glendora, and, of course, now our new home, thanks to Yvonne over there. Thank you very much. We are now in the Laverne community at Wheeler Avenue Park, and our activities are on Sunday afternoons. Ages 4 to 18, we offer programs throughout the course of the year, which is basketball and bowling in the winter, baseball, of course, which is the number one sport right now, going on in the spring, and then we do soccer and flag football in the fall. To give you a number, we started off 13 years ago with 30 kids. We're in the middle of our baseball season, or starting off our baseball opening day this Sunday. We have 190 kids playing baseball this year. I'm going to take a minute for a personal thank you to those people around me that make my life so much easier. Marcos Langus, he's the head of our coaches. He gets everybody out there. Even when they don't know they're coaching, they get to be coaches, right? We have Cindy. She's newer to our board. She's actually coordinating with our moms and stuff like that. She's doing an awesome job. Again, every little job needs to be done. Marcy, you seen about ASA on social media? It's her, and she does an amazing job. Of course, I have Diane, my legal secretary. She's also handles all of our T-shirts and things like that to get the word out. And again, they've taken work away from me, which I'm happy for once. It's kind of weird. And then we have Jennifer here, who's actually head of our volunteers. We are, again, everybody on this board, by the way, 100% volunteers. Nobody gets paid. And we basically, this is what we do. This is our passion. And it's very important to us that, again, we are here all the time doing what we do best, and we can't do it without the volunteers, whether it's this board, whether it's family members, whether it's high school kids that come out to get community hours, whatever it is, we cannot do what we do without their help. And I have Tricia over here who also, she's got probably one of the newest, most important jobs of all that I used to do. It's logistics. Gets the snacks for the kids after the games. That's very important. So, yes. But again, I cannot operate this league like I can without these people, and I can't thank them enough. And I can't thank you guys enough. And Yvonne, again, thank you for finding us a home. We are very happy, and I don't see us leaving. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much. One more? No? Okay.
So your opening day is Sunday?
Yes.
At 12:30 p.m., 413, is that correct?
That's correct.
At 12:30 p.m. At what park?
Wheeler Avenue Park.
There you go.
Where awesome and amazing happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Water.
I hate it when it goes down the wrong.
Promise I'll make it. See if I can do this. Okay, I've got my voice back and I'm not dying. I'm good. Outstanding older American. Actually, outstanding younger American. Let's put this correct. Come on now. The Senior Advisory Committee, SAC, has nominated one senior citizen for the Older American Recognition, the Younger American Recognition Award. This recognition is part of the Los Angeles County Commission for Older Adults 60th Annual Older Americans Recognition Day. There's all sorts of acronyms. I'm not going to pronounce them. Americans Recognition Day Awards Program, which honors a senior citizen from each city in Los Angeles County. The Senior Advisory Committee nominated Bonnie Brunell as the city's outstanding older American. Bonnie joined the Laverne Heritage Foundation in 1987 and has contributed countless hours to the renovation and research of the Weber House, as well as other historic buildings, windmills, and farm equipment. Bonnie has served as the treasurer on the board, diligently documenting financial records to keep the nonprofit running, and has recently taken on the responsibility of organizing one of our newer events, the spring and fall vendor fairs, which is incredible, incredible. Her contributions allow both the local community and visitors to learn about and enjoy a slice of Laverne's past history. Come on up, Bonnie. Get up here. If anybody's been to any of these functions, which I have, it takes a village to run this. You're one of many, and you're getting recognized, but you have a team that's incredible there. We've done so many, the different vendor fairs. The Heritage Foundation has the same as our Historical Foundation, do amazing things for our community, and that place is just incredible. This weekend with the Excellent Adventure was great, and then the vendor fair was, a few weeks before that. You guys, all of you working, you're there from the minute it starts to the time it ends, and everybody else either running tractors or working in our store, I call it our heritage store, or with the children out there with the little farm animals, or in the garden, or in the house doing tours, or in the orchard doing that. It's incredible. You guys do an amazing job, and we wouldn't be the city we are without you guys, and we really do appreciate it. It takes thousands of hours, and I know you guys put it in, the same as our historical society. Thousands of hours of dedication, and we couldn't do it without you guys, because our history is so important and how our city functions. So thank you. With that, the City of Laverne Certificate of Recognition presented to Bonnie Brunell. The certificate is presented on behalf of the Laverne City Council to Bonnie Brunell. Congratulations on being nominated as the Outstanding Older American, Younger American, sorry, we're in the same boat, representing the City of Laverne for 2024-2025. You rock. You're great. Would you like to say a few words?
As the mayor mentioned, I could not imagine what Heritage Foundation is today. When I first started, there was just a handful of us. And now we've gotten so many great people to do what we're doing now. We have
that, like you said, the kids that come in, the communities that come in, they're coming from all over. It's not just Laverne. It's San Dimas, Glendora. I mean, we even had, at one time, we had somebody coming to our orange sale from Santa Barbara. They had heard about it. And so I thank everyone here. And this certificate is also for you, because I had a passion when I started, and it has blown me away. It really has. And I really feel honored to get this, and I can't wait to see what else is in the future. It's a magical place. We love it, and I love the city of Laverne.
Preaching to the choir. I'm going to do Senator Rubio's because, like I say, she's an icon in our community, and she really appreciates all the people that work so hard on their own time to make our communities better. And to Bronnie Burnell, Outstanding Younger American. Sorry, I'm going to change that. American Recognition Award. On behalf of the California State Senate, it is my honor to recognize you for your immeasurable contribution to the community. Your achievements in serving the public as an advocate of historical documentation is truly admirable. Thank you for the hard work and dedication that you have demonstrated in preserving the rich history of the city of Laverne. Congratulations, Susan Rubio, Senator, 22nd District. Thank you. These are both yours.
Thank you.
We'll get pictures with your family, too. You guys want to get up here? Come on up. Come on. Here, I'll take it. Get the family. Get them first. Okay, let's go. Come on.
I'll take it.
Bye, guys. We'll meet you for dinner, wherever you're going. Let's let them. Thank you, guys, very much. Thank you. You guys going up to Heritage Park to close down or what? Someone's got to shut those bathrooms down. Oh my gosh, you're looking great. Thanks again, guys. Thank you. The next one is the Jack Huntington Award. It was named after S. Jack Huntington, who moved to Laverne in 1970. Despite heavy professional obligations and time commitments to the U.S. Naval Reserve, Jack became actively involved in the community as a volunteer. He was active in various local organizations, including the Laverne JCs, Little League, and Youth Basketball Program. Jack also served as a City of Laverne Commissioner for more than 15 years, completing 2 terms on the Parks and Recreation Commission, as well as 2 terms on the Planning Commission. Jack Huntington was a citizen volunteer who exemplified the pride of Laverne through selfless service to the community. This year, the Jack Huntington Pride of Laverne Award is presented to Harvey Good. Harvey Good. I don't see Harvey. No, Out here. Harvey is a former ULV professor of biology and biology department chair for 20 years, is also a 42-year board member of the Inland Valley Humane Society. The Good Mobile was named in his honor, allowing the Humane Society to bring their services directly to the communities they serve. Outside of his volunteer efforts with the Humane Society, Harvey Good previously worked for more than 30 years as a volunteer firefighter and a member of the Mountain Search and Rescue Team of the Mount Baldy Village. Harvey Good is now a resident of the Hillcrest community. Congratulations, Harvey. The Jim Scranton Award was named after longtime resident Jim Scranton, who was a member of the Youth Sports Committee since its inception. In 1986, he formed the Laverne Laser Soccer Club organization, which provides youngsters an opportunity to play soccer at a highly competitive level. Jim also spent 5 years at the City Sports Park Committee, which resulted in the development of 35 acres of sports fields for the community. He also participated in the City Women's Soccer program as a coach. Jim is survived by his wife, Susan, and their children. The Youth Sports Committee recommended that a Pride of Laverne Youth Sports Volunteer Award be named in honor of Jim Scranton. This year, the Jim Scranton Pride of Laverne Award is presented to Tony Lacobacci. Lacobacci, sorry. Right? Lacobacci. Get up here. You know, us Italians have problem, you know? I'm sorry. Okay, how do you pronounce it?
Jacobacci.
Jacobacci. I know, whatever. Hey, you won the award, okay? Give me a break. Tony is the ultimate volunteer. I will attest that I see him all the time in the soccer fields. He's always there. I know his wife probably says, "Where are you?" I'm on the soccer fields. I can attest to that. His demeanor and general life outlook suited him well to lead the largest youth sports organization in Laverne. As AYSO president, he has returned ASO to membership numbers not seen since before COVID. Tony began his ASO journey in 2010, immediately signing up for referee duties for his children's teams. Tony turned refereeing into a passion. Gosh, go figure. Earning the intermediate level badge in 2013, the advanced referee certificate in 2018, and then became the regional referee administrator in 2019. Kind of like soccer, I think. Tony has remained true to his roots and can be seen in the fields here in Laverne. Today, Tony still referees, but spends most of his free time as the regional commissioner of the Laverne-San Dimas ASO Region 112. The youth families and cities of Laverne and San Dimas are better places to live and grow due to the wonderful Mr. Tony Jacobacci. I said it wrong again, but whatever. Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you very much.
Can you say a few words?
I would love to. Thank you.
Come on in the middle. No, you're not shy.
Jacobacci.
Jacobacci.
Jacobacci. We'll say it all together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you too. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Actually, it does say that.
It does.
Yeah.
See, it's right there. Thank you. I couldn't do what I do without the board that runs the region. And honestly, we couldn't do it without the coaches. All of our parents are volunteers. In the fall, which is the season that we're registering now for, we have over 1,000 players and 100 teams. And it's the parents that are out there. So it's us behind the scenes, but they're out there coaching the kids. Just like teachers in the classroom, those coaches are out there every night working with those kids. Thank you very much for this award, for finally getting my name right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Let me read this one, too, for Senator Rubio. I will say that I know Steve Johnson and myself have both coached ASO and also was I think it was a Division 5 coordinator way back when. And ASO is probably one of the finest organizations, if not the finest around. It's not real expensive. All the families are involved, and you build relationships for the rest of your lives. And that's a true statement. It's true. Senate Certificate of Recognition, Tony Jacobacci. Jacobacci, sorry. I'm going to just butcher that. Tony L., Jim Scranton Pride of Laverne Award. On behalf of the California State Senate, it is my honor to recognize you as an awardee of the Jim Scranton Award. Your volunteerism in Laverne sports and the unwavering commitment you have shown to our community is truly awe-inspiring and set an example for others to follow. Thank you for your invaluable contributions to the city of Laverne and the San Gabriel Valley. I applaud your longstanding and dedicated service to our shared community. Congratulations, Susan Rubio.
Thank you very much. Thank you too, and also thank you to Ron, Chad.
There they are.
Chad, back in the corner, for all of the help with everything we do.
And they make it happen with
They
you
make it
guys.
happen.
As long as you treat everybody well, everything happens the way it should be, right?
If they could just get the rain and the sprinkles.
Sorry. We like the rain. We like the rain.
like the rain.
We like the rain during the week, and then the weekends it's clear so you can play soccer.
Right.
Okay. Congratulations. No, she's going to. No, she doesn't have a choice. Have a choice. No. You guys don't have to stay for the meeting, you know that. Oh, you are. The Yakobachis would like to stay. There you go. See? She taught me. You know, when you're on a track and you're saying it wrong, it's just wrong all the time until you just calm down, you know. Congratulations to all the recipients of all the awards. You guys deserve it tremendously. Oh, now we have announcements of upcoming community events. We will. We have a number of cards here, but I'm going to have our city manager introduce someone new that just came into our city.
Yes.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring up Danny Wu. Come on, Danny. Danny is our new Public Works Director. He is a native of the San Gabriel Valley. He currently lives in Walnut, but grew up in Upland, I think, if that's correct.
Correct.
Recently, he was over at Cal Poly Pomona as their executive director of the capital improvement projects and everything else infrastructure related. But,
Transportation.
Yes. We went through once Meg McWade, our former public works director, let me know that she was leaving to go back to Pomona. We went through a open recruitment, had a really good list of folks who came through. We had a department head evaluation. Had another public works director that I'd worked for before sit on that also for those technical issues. Danny was very impressive to the group. I've met with him a couple times after that point, and love to have him on here. There's a lot of stuff going on in Laverne, and I just wanted to bring him up, get his face in front of the crowd and in front of everybody else, because he's going to be here working his butt off for the city of Laverne for the next, I think he told me 8 years, but, you know, I'll go anywhere from 6 to 10. So, but Danny, if you want to say a couple things.
Well, Danny, you can also just drive down Valley to Fairplex and go up that way and come in the back way to the city, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just checked. Just checking.
All the secret routes.
Secret route.
No, Mayor, members of the City Council, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to be joining this fine city of Laverne. Like City Manager Domer mentioned, I grew up in the East San Gabriel Valley, went through K through 12 school, was also a Cal Poly graduate before I spent a career of 28 years in the infrastructure world. Worked at a couple of different cities in the past. And this is great to sort of be back in the area again, working for the fine city of Laverne. So very looking forward to leading the fine team of the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Danny. I just want to know, I've been on council 10 years. I've never gotten a jacket. He's in 3 days and he gets a jacket. What happened to that? City of Laverne jacket. Do I need a jacket? You look good in it, though. Your City of Laverne jacket looks great on you. Yes. Well, welcome. We're very happy to have you. And sorry, had to throw it out there. We're very happy to have you on board, and we look forward to many, many years of great service and great things for our Public Works Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKinley, Andrew McKinley, POA golf tournament. I just gave your secret out, but now you can finish it.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, chief. My name is Andrew McKinley. I'm the Laverne Police Officers Association president. What I'd like to do tonight is inform you of our 5th annual golf tournament. This year, as of last year, the proceeds are going to be shared with the Laverne Canine Foundation, a great organization that helps or is instrumental with our funding our canine foundation when allowing us to have Tupelo. So we'd hope you guys would come out to support. I threw some flyers on the table over there. There's a QR code in the bottom right corner of the flyer. You hit that QR code and it'll give you all the information how to sign up. The tournament this year is going to be on Monday, April 28th at the Upland Hills Country Club. And you don't have to be a great golfer. I shoot mine into the water.
Don't look at me like that.
I shoot mine into the water. You shoot yours into the woods, and Chief shoots his right down the fairway. We play the Chief's ball. It's a Texas Scramble best ball.
Are there spots still available?
Oh yes, there's spots still available.
What do you have left? And I want to get that flyer so we can push that on social media. Do you have that?
Yeah, I threw some on there, and
I'll
get
push it out for you. But there are spots available. Do you foursome, singles, all that stuff?
Yes, we do. Okay. We have foursome opportunities, sponsorship opportunities. The community so far has been great. The Laverne Chamber of Commerce has been great with advertising at their mixers for us as well. It's a great day. In-N-Out has sponsored lunch for everybody, so come out and get a burger and enjoy a great time.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll push that out. Thank you very much. Kim Weatherby, SBA Disaster Loans. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Kim Weatherby, and I'm a Public Informations Officer with the Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. The SBA's goal is to ensure that the City Council and the community of Laverne are aware that disaster relief from the recent Eaton fires is available to them in the form of low-interest disaster loans. We're able to assist businesses of any size, homeowners, renters, if they had any physical damage to repair or replace. That deadline just passed. It was March 31st, but we're currently in a 60-day grace period, so the new deadline is now May 30th. We also have, the SBS also has economic injury disaster loans known as EIDL. These loans are meant to help businesses with working capital so that they can meet their financial obligations. Businesses can apply for up to $2 million, and that can be used to pay for their fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, etc. Some of these businesses maybe don't even know yet that they're being impacted. So because of that, the deadline for the EIDL loan is not until October 8th. There are many benefits to an SBA loan, such as 0% interest and no payment for 12 months. If there are any applicants, for the record, they can go to our website, which is sba.gov/disaster. They can call and talk to somebody, and that toll-free number is 800-659-2955. And some people I know they'd like to sit down and talk to somebody in person, have a little give and take. So your closest disaster recovery center is at 540 West Woodbury Road in Altoona. So the SBA just wants to make sure that all the affected members, if there are any in the community of Laverne, know that the SBA is here to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Is that something we can put on our website? Is it something we could do, or we can't do that? We could? I think it'd be good to put that on our website. I mean,
Yeah, I have
although
some
we're
flyers.
east of that, the
You
thing is
are.
though, everybody's affected by
But
it.
you're still LA County, so
No,
you're
and
in
it,
the affected
well,
areas, so.
there's not one of us that don't know somebody that didn't have an issue or lost something. So I think it's good to get that because that could affect the whole San Gabriel Valley.
I reached out to Deborah to get your guys' email addresses.
If you could get us
so-
that information on the flyer, and we'll push it on our social media and on our webpage, and that way we can get it out. At least people have access to it. Thank you very much. Appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
Sherry Best. The truck was pretty cute with the ears and the nose. Yeah, pretty cute.
Oh, boy.
You just never know what Sherry's bringing with her, you know?
You never know.
That little bag of tricks. Could be alcohol, could be a bunny. You just don't know.
That's right. You never know. It's the enticing gift
Careful, it does
for
bite.
one of the winners of our coloring contest. So there he goes. There's a little clip at the bottom. You got him.
Put out the attack bunny.
Yeah. The Laverne Historical Society attended the April 5th Excellent Adventure with good spirits, candies, toys, and the bunny-decorated 1938 International truck. It looked great with its googly eyes and eyelashes and bunny ears. Yes, we had 30 entries in our coloring contest, and now those pictures are in the hands of YFAC judges, and we'll be awarding winners at the next City Council meeting. One of the winners will get one of those wonderful bunnies. Yes. This Saturday, we are participating in the Autism Highway Chalk Festival that will be in the City Hall parking lot. Come celebrate diversity, enjoy entertainment and art activities. That's very exciting. We'll follow up with participation at the Senior Craft Fair on April 19th at 9 a.m. in the Community Center. The city provides so many opportunities for engagement by members of the community and nonprofits, and that's just perfect for us. So many thanks. So on Wednesday, April 23rd, look for the Laverne Historical Society at the University of Laverne Community Partners Expo. We'll be in the quad on the main campus next to the Cassie table working together. We'll follow up then 3 days later with a blowout at the chamber-sponsored community yard sale. This is a time to get treasures galore at bargain prices and no tariffs, okay, and no taxes. So this is where your money will go farther at the community yard sale. That takes care of April. On May 3rd, join us for a guided walking tour of our bronze marker homes on 3rd Street, as well as a tour of the William Muma House at 2369 3rd Street. We'll have wonderful vintage treasures for sale, no tariffs, as well as our jelly, jam, and marmalade. So that's all our announcements till the next City Council meeting. Support the Laverne Historical Society, which is looking for a permanent home to showcase your history and our look at the future. And last but not least, we especially want to thank Richard Casados, who works at the City Maintenance Yard. He's been working with Ruben Guardardo, who is our tree wizard, who has been prepping pieces of the Coons Park carob tree. Ruben's been there almost every day in his jumpsuit and his chainsaw. And Richard has been just incredibly supportive. We really appreciate his patience and help. So that project is coming right along. So till the next time, now I'm going to retrieve my bunny because I'm afraid it might walk away if I don't get it back.
What about membership?
What about membership? Let's see. Membership is $20 for an individual membership, $25 for a family membership, and $200 for a lifetime membership. Okay, well, look, somebody's making off with the money. You got to watch out.
What about those jams and jellies?
$10 each. You can't miss.
What's the hot one of the
Pucker
month?
Power Plum is the new hot.
The plum is excellent.
Yeah, it's
excellent.
very good stuff. Yeah. Okay, not available in any retail store, only through the Historical Society. No tax, no tariff.
No tariffs.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Anybody else have any announcements? Okay, we're going to close announcements. Council, any announcements? No. Okay. We're going to move on to, thank you for sharing announcement. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are routine and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the city council or a member of the audience requests separate discussion. Council, are there any requests to pull an item? City manager, was anything pulled?
Nothing was pulled, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval? Well, this is really hard.
Second.
Vote, please.
The consent calendar was approved 3-0. Councilmember Lau making the motion, second by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Cashel, Fagita, and Crosby were absent.
Thank you. Discussion calendar. First on the discussion calendar is the memorandum of understanding with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for Rapid Connect installation. Senior Manager Domer, I understand that you will be making the presentation tonight.
Yes, sir. As I get to that item. Okay. So tonight is an MOU with Crown Castle. As we know, we have not the best cellular service.
Not the best? We have none.
Yes.
Remember.
I call you often, and sometimes when you're outside, it's horrible.
I have to walk outside with a metal hanger stuck in my head.
Hang on to your jungle gym. So,
yeah.
So the hope is, and so one of the reasons there is none is because there's no actual fiber lines up there. There are some that come around aerial to places in the county, but nothing that's currently in there feeding what would be the street lights or up to Low Brant Park. So what we're planning to do is there's a terminus of a fiber on Wheeler around Oak Mesa. And Crown Castle, after talking to several different vendors and places, they have developed what's called a Rapid Connect system. So there's several different ways to put fiber into the ground. You can do a typical trench, which is like 3 feet down, 18 inches wide, and all that stuff. Costs a lot of money. You can bore. You can do micro trenching, which is like an inch wide, 14 inches down or more, up to 18 inches. They've developed what's called the Rapid Connect, which is just a thin, almost 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch, cut into the asphalt, very narrow. They tuck some fiber into it, and they can go with that. The good thing is that it's almost at this point of time disposable. So some of the concerns in past installations is that the city would have had to, either relocate or some protect in place a fiber line. With this, if we're going to be doing street improvement projects, we let them know. They'll remove it or they'll replace it afterwards. So the goal is to get this going, get a fiber line up to Golden Hills, turn right on Golden Hills, go down towards Low Brant Park. That would feed into some of the streetlights we have up there, and then potentially something at Low Brant Park. But the goal is to get some micro cells then onto those streetlights so that we can get some better connectivity up into the North Laverne area, which helps with emergency procedures and telecommunications, and the city manager calling the mayor. So with that, if there's any questions, the goal would be to approve the MOU or to authorize the city manager, myself, to execute the MOU, and then we will start working with them. There's another item on this agenda also, which is the slurry seal up there. That's the next item. And the goal would be to work with Crown Castle, get that done as soon as possible, and then have them slurry seal over it. So no one would ever know there's a fiber connection into the streets.
Very good. Do we? Let's open up public comment on that before we go to council. Any public comment on this item? We'll go ahead and close public comment. Nobody on the thing. I just had a couple questions real quick, and I'll give it to the council members and Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. There was just 2 strands that we were going to take. Is that correct? It was 2 strands, if I read correctly. And was that a 6-strand or a 12-strand on that fiber? And the reason I'm asking is, why would we have 2? We should have 4.
Oh, okay. I believe it was 2 strands and it was 12. I'd have to check with them.
Yeah, if they have an extra, I would suggest, because if we want to do something later on, those 2 other strands, not only is it redundant, but it also gives us the network to be able to have something else. The other question is, as we lose coverage once you go past Stevens Ranch Road, we lose coverage at that point until you come around Golden Hills, Esperanza, down mid-level, just about the time you get down Esperanza and the gap down there, just as you start entering the homes. Was there any talk about coming up that way through Esperanza on that fiber? And why weren't they continuing that fiber all the way down through Golden Hills cut to Esperanza, all the way down to basically to the gap there in the homes as you hit Esperanza going towards Baseline?
We can talk to them. So the issue was the closest proximity for a fiber terminus was at Oak Mesa and Wheeler. And so that was the easiest part to connect. This is kind of a demonstration. So it's,
it works.
They've done it in LA. They've done it in a couple other cities. We'd probably be about their 5th or 6th city that it's going into.
It's a great idea. I think it's
I
think it's a very good idea. And the fiber is protected, even with the 3/4 of an inch or an inch, it's still protected. But I would say that if it does work, I would say that we want to get our residents from the other side down.
Absolutely.
If that's so. But I would recommend that we do a 4-strand. That's just my recommendation. I kind of do this for a living, so the 4-strand would be a good idea.
Okay.
And I mean, if they're not using all 12 strands or all 10. No, they're still cut the same. Anyway, questions? So you want to we're going to make a motion on this particular item, and then we move to the next item. Is that correct? Do we have a motion to, oh, what's that? We already had public comment. We closed it. Yeah. All right.
And there's cost of
No cost to the city.
cost of the city.
We make sure we put that out there. There is no cost to the city. So with that, we have a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the MOU with Crown Castle.
Approved.
Come on, guys. There's only 2 of you. Vote, please. It's not a-
Item number 7 was approved 3-0. Motion by Johnson, seconded by Lau. Cashel, Figuita, and Crosby are absent.
Beautiful. Next is the award of contract for the FYI 2024-25 crack slurry seal project. City Manager Domer, please call forward the staff member representative. That would be Mr. Cody Howling. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Yes, this action tonight is the award of contract for the fiscal year 24-25 crack seal slurry seal project for a number of streets. The recommendation is that City Council award a Public Works construction contract to Carter Enterprises Group, doing business as Pavement Rehab Company, the lowest, most responsible bidder, in the amount of $1,369,000 for the fiscal year 24-25 crack seal slurry seal for Aldersgate and to Baseline et al. And Golden Hills to Canterwood et al. Project. And then the second recommendation is to authorize staff to issue construction contract change orders not exceeding 10% to the construction budget for a total possible cost of the project, coming up to $1,595,900 even, which also includes engineering, construction management, and inspection services for the project. So a few brief items I'd like to highlight to council before moving on. On January 30th, 2025, we received 5 sealed bids. Those bids ranged for the total combined bid of the base and the additive alternate from the $1.369 million to the $2.144 million. As stated, the lowest bid in this situation, decided, my apologies, was the Carter Enterprises Group. As far as budget goes for this project, sufficient funds are available in the fiscal year 24-25 budget under the annual streets pavement management program. With that, there's a few items in terms of location that I'll highlight to council. You have attachments in your packet with some maps that are color-coded. So the project was broken down into kind of 2 segments. We call it the base bid was the Aldersgate Group, and the additive alternate was the Golden Hills group of streets. So just give you context, Aldersgate, that area is basically bound. The streets that will be included in the project are going to be north of Baseline and west of Wheeler, with Aldersgate being the northerly most street that gets covered in that slurry seal work. And then for the additive alternate, which is recommended for award, we have Golden Hills, which goes from Linda Lane over at the border with San Dimas on the west side, all the way through Esperanza up to roughly approximately Cimarron. And then we have Canterwood and the number of cul-de-sacs just there located south of Golden Hills, and west of Wheeler. So that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Howling. We're going to open up public comment. Anybody wish to speak on this item? We're going to close public comment. Just a couple. I just had a couple quick questions. This pavement rehab company, DBA Carter Rehab, what's their history? I'm just curious because the bids were close to the second, and then it was off the charts with the final bid at almost double, but the at least 80% more.
Yes.
What I just always concerned about a DBA. What were they previously as far as pavement rehab company, DBA?
Sure.
Carter Rehab. What's the?
So we conducted a license check. They have a valid license. One thing that's important to note, and I really appreciate this question because there's a detail there that's not common for slurry seal projects. So one of the things that we're doing, and I think I may have briefly touched on it in the report but failed to mention it tonight, is also redoing ADA curb ramps with this project. We have a number of ADA curb ramps.
That was my next question.
So the way that this project's set up is a little different from your typical slurry seal project, as the prime contractor is not a slurry seal contractor. Their sub is Pavement Coatings, if I recall correctly on this, which is another company that has been around in the region for numerous years and has done excellent work in various agencies.
They have purchased that company as the DBA, or
no,
they're just a separate company that they hire?
They're a
subcontractor for the slurry seal.
Yes. Yeah, so the prime contractor on this will be doing the crack seal, and I believe they're doing the curb ramps as well. One thing to note, Mayor, is I believe this is the same company that helped us out with crack sealing White Avenue right before Gold Line came in and did their slurry to make the adjustments on striping and their various restoration as related to that project. So they have done work in the city, although minor in scale compared to this project. They have done work successfully.
I think my question was bandwidth. They have the bandwidth. They have they have license, an active license. No, problems against them.
None that I've been made aware of.
Okay.
They have a valid license, and so at this point, they're not on any debarment lists that we check on the federal level. And yeah, we have worked with them in the past, and look forward to hopefully successful performance and a swift nature to help maintain our city streets in a cost-effective manner.
That's what we're allowed.
Are the insurance requirements for the prime going to flow down to their sub?
The prime carries the burden of the project, so
I like a lot of pocket.
Yeah,
like a lot of it.
Our insurance rates are dictated by the Green Book, so I don't know that I could state them by heart, but they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million to $2 million per occurrence, with an aggregate of maybe $5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
I like the $5 million aggregate on top of that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's important, and it's a good point.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we are protected in as many ways possible. So if we can make sure that our contract with Carter, the terms for the insurance flows down to whoever they decide to hire as a subcontractor, and all the subcontractors are appropriately vetted for the work.
Absolutely. One thing I'll add to that, council member, is we also have bonds on the project. So we have payment bonds and material bonds. So if there's a situation where, let's say, the unfortunate circumstances that the prime contractor failed to pay a material supplier or a sub, that bond would then be used as collateral to then rectify that issue. It is very rare that we have to get to that level, but it is an avenue that we can take in addition to our insurance coverage that we have as the standard contract language.
So, and then this bid that was provided encompasses numbers from their sub. So we're not going to see any anticipated changes to this bid then.
Exactly. So this bid, it requires that they list subs for values of work that are $10,000 or 0.5%, whichever is greater, if I'm not mistaken. So any sub that's doing any real work is listed, and for them to change it would be a process. Not something that's typically done. There are avenues to do it, but yes, the subs are set in more or less sense, and the prices are set. Yeah.
Right. And then in terms of timing, do we know how long the overall project is going to last? And I know just from experience in our own development, whenever we've got a slurry seal, and it's the whole you can't yes. travel down those roads. So I just want to make sure that we're also adequately informing the neighborhood if they need to plan that they can't leave, or they can't leave within a certain time
Yes.
period or whatnot?
Absolutely. So one of the strategies that I try to employ on slurry seal projects is we do a lot of public noticing, not only just the dates, but to give a clear understanding or expectation of what slurry seal is. It's not your conventional hot mix asphalt. From time to time, you will get what we call power steering marks as people, pull in and back out of their driveway and move that. Those are watched closely. They do typically heal with a hot day. The other thing that we're going to employ on this project that I don't know has been employed on past projects is we're going to roll the cul-de-sacs with rubber tire rollers to help combat that. It is a very conventional material that's used throughout the region. I've done numerous successful projects, and it is a very cost-effective approach. But as long as we set the expectation is it's not hot mix asphalt, it's not going to come out your pristine street. It'll look nice. But yeah, that with obviously noticing which days and the inconvenience that will occur, it will be something that we will do our best to manage and try to minimize that for residents.
Do we have any idea how long the overall project might be?
I think one of the things I was talking with the contractor, and it plays directly into our the previous item with Crown Castle, is scheduling and how this operation between that work will take place. Preference is always to do slurry seal in warm season months, so I don't want it to creep too far out into summer, but do want to take advantage of summer. So I think one of those things we'll have to work with Crown Castle and see how soon they can get in. There was a contract timeline that I am drawing a blank on right now, but something to the tune of 60 to 90 days is probably what I would expect to see on that. The operation includes a number of things beyond just the slurry seal. Obviously, we've got the replacement of curb ramps. That'll probably be operation number one. They will come and do the crack seal and weed spraying, so they kill everything that's inside those cracks and might cause future issues. And then the slurry seal is the second to last step, with striping being the final step through the process. So slurry seal will probably, for a project of this scale, take somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks of spreading, depending on how they break it up. Contractors are very good. These guys are pros. This is all they do. They will leave what we call windows to try to minimize the impact. But obviously, when the slurry goes by your driveway, if you're in your driveway, you're stuck for probably about a half day or so. So we'll make sure to try to do a good amount of outreach, door hangers, noticing people, letting them know that, Monday's your day, Tuesday's your day, and so on. And our inspectors also try to work with, if they see a car in the driveway and the slurry crew's coming down the street, they'll knock on the doors. Hey, heads up, in case you forgot, we're coming down. So if you want to move it, you can move it to an area where we're not striping that or slurrying that day.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to get the outreach because it's a very busy area. Like, it is up Laverne. It's only one street, but that's a main artery.
Absolutely.
And I make sure that we get those notices out with the maps, site maps, dates, when they're going to be there. You're also going to do the curb and gutter and the ADA. You're also going to put bike lanes up there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Straight bike lanes.
That is a component on this.
You slipped that little thing in there, the bike lanes up in Golden Hills. Now, just a question on the bike lanes.
Yes.
Are they going to be beyond the parking curb and then outside that? Or are they going to be just like you did on B Street, which is just green arrows?
So these are going to be Class 2 bike lanes. Those are the striped separated type, maybe more along the lines of Bonita. So there will be curb parking that's preserved. I don't believe we lost a single spot along the way.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No. And in some areas, we will have a buffer because we have adequate space up on Golden Hills.
There's a lot of space.
Yes.
But when it cuts, the problem is Golden Hill goes like this.
Yep. It sucks in. Yep.
And then it comes out like this when you get past Stevens Ranch Road. But the point is that there's no parking there, so it's not an issue on that one. I think we haven't really seen the drawing, but I think that's one of the outreach things you need to get to the residents.
Absolutely.
So you're going to basically have a parking stall, and then you're going to have a bike lane.
Correct. I believe it's roughly 10 feet wide for the parking stall in more or less sense. The minimum parking stall, I don't like to go below 8, but you can go below 7 if you're in a pinch. And then the bike lanes will be approximately 5 feet wide. The buffers will be 4 feet where they exist. The lane lines vary. Your typical standard lane line on on a freeway or any arterial road's 12 feet wide, and I think we're pretty close to that. We're between 11 and 13 in some areas as we kind of fluctuate with the roadway.
Yeah,
width.
I'd be real careful with once you go into the wilderness park, as it comes in there, you have a narrowing. People do a lot of photos there on the natural park, but then you also have parking on the other side of the street for people there. So we need to be very mindful of how we do those in order for people to still safely park there, get into the park to do their photos, and then come back out, but also the residents on the other side. So kind of real dicey there where you get that bulb in and bulb out.
Yes, yeah. So at our next ATC meeting, we will have the plans to present and discuss with the members of the group.
Hey,
so
that's
tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be looking at that tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, Steve, Mayor Pro Tem, any questions? Very good. Thank you very much, Cody. Appreciate it. I think we're going to go ahead and we have a motion to award contract to Pavement Rehab Company and authorize the associated change orders. Second? Vote, please.
Item 8 was moved by Lau, seconded by Johnson, approved 3-0 with Cashel, Figuita, and Crosby absent.
Thank you. Final item, the fiscal year 2024-25 budget reassessment and adjustment recommendation. City Manager Domer, I wonder who you're going to call forward as a staff member. That would be Director Lopez. Is that correct? Finance Director Lopez?
Yes.
She's losing everything, but that's okay.
Even when she loses it all, she's very, very competent.
Yes, she's competent.
Director Christy Lopez will make this presentation.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This evening I'm presenting a report on the economic changes and recommended budget adjustments for the fiscal year 2024-25. So each year we look at, or we do an analysis conducting the actual revenues and expenditures to the budgeted figures across all city funds. This mid-year analysis uses data from the first 6 months of the fiscal year, along with updated assumptions for the remaining 6 months to project estimated year-end actuals. We use various sources to figure out these forecasts. For revenues, we use consultants for our sales tax, property tax, and our utility users tax, excuse me, which are experts in this area, and many other agencies use these sources, HDL and Muni Services. For the other revenues, we use our current information that we have for this first 6 months, as well as for gas tax, the state actually provides estimates, and then for the county, for local measures, Prop A and C, we use them. So we use a different or various sources, and each revenue, we look at them individually to try and see where they're going to end up at the end of the year. For expenditure estimates, also based on various factors. For personnel costs, these are derived from those most recent payroll period. So for this one, we looked at January, and we go through that payroll and make sure that there's no anomalies. Excuse me, we didn't have somebody who retired that had a large vacation payout, or we didn't have someone that, or we didn't have a lot of vacancies that we planned on filling in the future. Additionally, we talk to all departments and make sure that they don't anticipate any vacancies, or they don't have any IODs that may be coming back, or any training that's going to impact that over time. So we're trying to get as much information as we can to get the best picture for the end of the year. For operating costs, we rely on the departments to look at their budgets and provide updates on whether their spending is on target or has shifted due to operational changes. Some of the non-general fund, because we don't just look at general fund, we look at all funds. Some of the non-general fund highlights that we have, I want to focus on or look at this before I turn to the general fund, which is our main source that we look at all the time. So a few significant changes in non-general fund areas includes the fire assignment fund. So this fund requires significant adjustments for both revenue and expenditures as activity is driven by unplanned emergency incidents, such as the Eaton fire. that depend on the availability and deployment of staff. So it's very hard for us to anticipate how many events those both police and fire are going to be sent out that we're going to need to include. The other item that had some significant change is the traffic safety fund. Both revenues and expenditures are projected to decline. With some of the staffing shortages that police department had, they shifted some of those hours for the traffic safety officer over to patrol. And so we had a reduction in our traffic safety personnel, which is supported by the general fund transfer. And so that's also going to be reduced by the same amount since we don't have those expenditures. So now moving on to the general fund. So following that analysis, it was determined that the city's general fund is projected to end the year with a $2 million deficit, where expenditures are exceeding those revenues. Upon this finding, the city manager took the following actions. He directed all department directors to review their budgets and identify possible savings with the goal of reducing general fund operating expenditures by 5% or approximately $800,000. He imposed a freeze on all overnight travel that was not already booked unless the travel is operationally required or reimbursed by an outside agency such as post or peace officer standards and training. Each time someone goes, or not each time, so if I go on a training, there's no backfill for me or another individual who just works that extra time, right, and gets in the extra work. But for police and fire, we have to have that coverage. So it is a requirement that we fill those spots. And so if we have someone who goes on training for a few days, we have to backfill those spots, which creates overtime. Additionally, he directed all staff to make sure that they are looking at all of those expenditures before they make it, to make sure that it is something that they really need. Some of the key expenditure drivers, really the only primary driver was a $1.8 million increase in overtime for public safety. These costs were largely related to injury on duty cases, FMLA, as well as a little bit of training, but mainly it is IODs, which is injury on duty. Some notable adjustments, moving on to revenues. I'll get back to expenditures a little bit later, but some notable adjustments in revenue forecasts include a reduction of sales tax, which is projected to fall short of our budgeted estimates by $200,000 due to weaker economic conditions. Building permits are expected to be $130,000 below what the annual average is of $1.1 million, which is $700,000 lower than last year's actuals. So each time building permit revenue is based on need. So if people are building more, or we have tenant improvements, or other building activity, the planning department or community development department goes through and identifies what projects they think are going to come in. And at this point in time, they don't think that they're going to have any additional projects that are going to meet what the original budget was. Charges for services did have an increase of about $460,000, with growth coming from multiple sources, including deposit project activity. So deposit project activity is also related to the building permit. However, that does have a corresponding expenditure. Deposit projects require the applicant to submit a deposit, and then there are charges that are connected to that. So although we do have an increase in revenue, we also have an increase in expenditures that's connected to that. Additionally, we have seen an increase in the paramedic insurance billing, some fire permit revenues, as well as fire business inspection fees. Roughly that total netted to about like the $87,000 increase overall. So despite the declines in some revenue categories, the net revenue change is projected to be positive by $51,000. So while the shortfall is primarily expenditure driven, departments made a concerted effort to identify cost savings that would not significantly impact their operations. These efforts resulted in an $800,000 in operating reductions. So all the departments looked at what they could pull back on. So for example, in finance, we don't have much to cut, but I went through and pulled back all the training. I told staff that we're going to shift training to online training using JPIA, which is training that's included. Cut back on office supplies, and that was just in our area. Other departments looked at Public Works, again, pulled a lot of those funds that they could pull back on for maintenance. So it was a lot of different areas. Within the budget report, there's also a amendment listing, so it has the detail of all the individual changes, because there's quite a few across all the funds. Additionally, the equipment fund, for each year, the equipment department pulls both an operating and a replacement fund from all the departments who have equipment. And so they did a review for the next 5 years and determined that they could pull back the last 4 months of this fiscal year and not have any of the funds pay that replacement cost, and that's going to save roughly $260,000. So everyone really pulled together to try and identify where we could reduce this gap. And while these measures significantly reduce the deficit, they do not fully eliminate that gap. The remaining deficit is roughly $600,000. So to close this gap, additional cuts or reserve funds are necessary. Staff is recommending the following: suspend the annual contribution to the General Capital Improvement Fund, postponing any projects that can be delayed, and utilizing upon council approval in the future if needed, funds if that need arises. Withdraw $323,000 from the assigned fund balance for future benefit obligations to cover vacation payouts that have incurred at this point in the year. The remaining amount is roughly $18,000, which is also being recommended to be covered by $5,000 from the legal reserve fund, as it is anticipating that we're going to have an overage of $5,000 in those legal fees, and $13,000 from future operations. The City Council and community prioritize high-quality public service, and city staff continually seek to provide such services in an efficient and cost-effective manner. However, the continued delivery of service comes at a significant cost in today's economic climate for a full-service, smaller community with built-out land use and reduced commercial resources. So we understand that we're faced with challenges. What we're going to be doing in the future, and we've already discussed it. We had budget meetings with fire and police this morning. With $1.8 million of increased overtime, we really need to change the way that we are looking at or forecasting for that. And unfortunately, the last 3 years, IODs have just become part of our regular operating activity. It's not something we want to have happen, but the reality is we need to look at the way we're forecasting. So previously, finance would look at the average vacation and sick usage, and that's how we would determine what the overtime budget is. Moving forward, we are going to work with the departments to make sure that they identify what kind of training is required that's going to possibly increase overtime. Whether they identify or know if anyone's going to go out on FMLA, or whether they anticipate any IODs, so that we can try and plan for this before, so that we don't have to come back each year and ask for additional funds to cover that overtime. And additionally, we do have and the fire and police department, the chiefs are both here and can discuss further if you have any questions about those overtime. Fortunately, although it was a lot of research, we went through and were able to identify all of the overtime. So it's not overtime that's missing. We were able to point it back to an IOD or back to an FMLA. So we can account for everything, and we know why it's happening. And so they are here if you have any direct questions for them about that. We do have a strategic planning and prioritization workshop coming up where we will definitely be discussing that. And if you have any questions, I am available. And I know this is a lot.
You saved the best for last, didn't you, Christy?
We did try and get it down to as much as we could.
I was going to eat dinner afterwards, but I'm not hungry now. Thank you. We knew it was coming, but thank you. That's very good. We're going to open up public comment first. If we have any other questions, we'll come back. We're going to open up public comment on this. Anybody wish to speak on this item? We're going to close public comment. Councilmember Lau.
So first, I want to say thank you to Finance and to all the staff for really looking at where we can close that gap. So I appreciate everybody's hard work in doing that. I think, we've said this before, it's not going to get any easier for our city, and it's identified in the report. We don't have some of these places that would generate bigger revenue for us like other cities do, whether it's a car dealership, a Costco, we don't have that type of revenue. And so I think we're going to have to continue to think creatively about how do we, I don't know what the chiefs are thinking, and I know Brandon's here for chief, but for fire, but is there a way to help prevent IODs? Is it because we're understaffed? Is it something else? Like, what is it that we need to be looking at to think more strategically about where do we place our funds to prevent some of these other things that we're looking at? So I just encourage the departments to really take a look at that and see where we are. I am concerned, obviously, that where we are, I get it. I get why we have to do it, but we just got through the whole water and sewer study session talking about the maintenance that's going to be required for some of this 100-year-old infrastructure. And, we are suspending our annual contribution to the CIP fund. And so what effects does that have for us, down the road? So like I said, I commend everybody for really tightening belts and really thinking of creative ways to get us through this year with this projected budget amendment. But I really think I'm looking forward, I guess, if that's the right term, to the strategic planning session where we can maybe think harder about what can we do given the constraints that we have. Like we said, we're built out. We don't have a car dealership. We don't have these avenues for revenue. So I'll borrow a page from the mayor's book to remind everybody to shop local as much as possible. I think that's at least one thing that we can all try to do if we're going to spend money, buying groceries or do it here. Don't do it anywhere else. So, but again, thank you. It wasn't really a question. It's just more of a comment for us going forward. So thank you. And let's try to work together to see what else we can do. Cause I'm sure this is not fun for you and your team either.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
All we need to do is get a money tree, right?
Oh.
Let's start planting those.
That one with Johnson?
No,
bring in my house.
Yeah. A gold mine, maybe. Yeah. Christy, thank you. And I know this is a tough job. Books are what they are. I'll have to do it. Every department is going to be involved in making up this difference. Going to have to spread it around. It's just a tough time.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. Thank you for all that. I know this is very difficult. It's very difficult for every department. Being a business owner, as Mr. Johnson and myself are, we need to get the overtime under control. I understand why we're doing it. I understand why, but we got to get it under control. That is the cog that in the wheel that's going to make it run off. $1.8 million in overtime is just not sustainable for our current budget. Between our sales tax, between our permits, between all the things that we normally count on, no matter how the budget is, those things are always going to be in flux. We could get better towards the end of the year. You never know. I mean, we could have a spur, but I understand you guys are working on it. But the overtime is very critical, and it's making it difficult for us to keep the budget together. So as a team, we need to work together on that to make sure that we're figuring out, as we're doing right now, the overtime, where it's coming from, how it's coming from, whether it be injuries, whether it be assignments. Another thing that I talked to Christy about is that we've had a tremendous amount of fire assignments, and we need to make sure that every cent is accounted for, that everything we're doing out there, because we're doing a big favor to supplying our people out to these regions, and they're doing an amazing job, and they're taking away from their families months on end, which I get, but we've got to make sure that the paperwork that's filled out for us to get reimbursed for these costs is so critical, because we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that are out there, and I know that Christy's working on it, but as each department, if we're out on assignment, make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's, that everything that we have is coming back to our city so we can get reimbursed for it. And then we have Watchdog Christie out there making sure that the departments that it's going to, whether it be state, federal, that we're getting reimbursed for those monies, because we're putting it out and then we have to wait to get it back in. And I know it doesn't happen. I've had a few contracts where it could be 6 to 9 months, and it's like we're hanging on for those dollars to come in. But again, I appreciate it. It's like everybody said, you guys are doing a great job, but the overtime, it's like, and I got guys, that's all they work is overtime. And a lot of times we do our lifestyle over our overtime. We can't be doing that. We can't be doing that. It has to be for a reason. It has to be justified, and we have to be reimbursed for that too if there's something that's critical. Understanding injury and things like that, that's a whole nother ballgame, but we need to watch that also. Keep our people fit, and I know you're working on that too with the fire department, police department also. We just need to make sure that we're all firing on the same cylinders, working with Christy, working with the city manager. And one big thing that I don't ever want to do, I don't mind dipping into reserves. We can't do that forever. This is not sustainable. We have reserves for a reason, but we've done this before. This is not our first rodeo when it comes to this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we got to work on economic development. We got to work on sustainable businesses. We have to make sure that our sales tax is high as we can get it. We have gas tax that's fluctuating right now because the government, the federal and state, we're in a real weird predicament now, but the most important thing is the fact to stay consistent, but to make sure that what we're doing is cost effective. But I don't want to ever reduce our services. I've been at multiple functions this weekend. The reason our city is so successful, and yes, it costs money, and we have to be careful how we spend it, but it's so important that we have these functions. And like we did tonight with our autistic, group in our neighborhood, how we're giving that. Those things are spent well. The excellent adventure. Yeah, it's one of those things, but our community really loves that. If I heard it once, I heard it 100 times. Councilmember Johnson Mayor Pro Tem Johnson was with me. We love this because this is how our community functions. This is why we live here. This is why we come to your community. But when those people come to our community, they spend money. They'll go down and get pizza. They'll go down to the grocery store and shop. They'll gas up before they leave. So I don't ever want to cut services. Police and fire, we have some of the best services around. Yes, it costs money, but we need to make sure that we help each other to get back to a little bit of square, reduce those costs on the overtime, make sure that we're, if we don't need it, we don't buy it. But I'm not into cutting services. That's a death knell in the coffin for a city, especially for a city like us that we've done so well at. And we do keep a very tight budget. But I commend all of you and thank you. And I know our city managers, he makes a nickel squeal. So I really appreciate that about you. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure our services stay the same for our community.
What does the nickel sound like when it squeals?
Before I go into what a nickel sounds squealing,
have you seen the toilet paper reel in the bathroom?
I do want to thank Christy and her staff because it has been a lot, but I want to thank all the staff because there was a challenge I set out to everybody about knowing and understanding the budget. And I believe that, everybody, every staff member from Public Works, Community Services needs to understand the cost of doing business and what role they play. And they have really answered that call and participated in the budget process. This is our third?
Second year.
Second, yeah. And everybody's getting better. They're understanding, the forms are better, the information, it's getting easier for them because that means that they recognize what they need to do, the use of the funding. And by that, truly understanding all the different measures and propositions, Measure A, Measure C, Prop this, Prop that, Measure W, and Measure A, and all these different things that we're eligible for, and we may not have been using them to the best of our ability, and now we are, and people understand their eligible uses. We're, the more staff education that we can do, the more involvement equals better understanding. And again, I think that's showing, and we've already had, as Christy mentioned, the police department and the fire department today. Today was not my no day, even though I wrote it on a cup. That's a no. But that's the meetings that start in 2 or 3 weeks. I do have worries about next year, and we'll get to that. But 1 year at a time. But on the overtime, when it comes to like the fire department, the city made the right decision several years ago to retain the Laverne Fire Department and to beef up the services. And they're a great group of folks who are not just protecting this community, but as you mentioned, going out. And nothing gets through on an overtime assignment, on a fire assignment pay, that Christie has not looked at and stared to death, the numbers. And so we're really understanding that. We're tracking things better. But it truly has been that this is a new data set. So now we are changing that. We're using basically now a new 3 years of data to look at what does the future hold and how can we project better so that these other overtime issues that are created by injuries on duties can be budgeted, because we really weren't doing that. We were just looking at a couple factors, not the whole thing. And then on that, making sure that, they are healthy. All staff is healthy, so we're not getting on injury on duties. The other thing that we've done recently with the police department is entered into what's called an alternative dispute resolution process through workers' comp. It's a carve-out, and what it does is it makes, if you get injured on duty, one of the worst things about the state workers' comp system is the time lag. You could be injured and know that your knee is swelling up, but the state system doesn't allow for you to get that immediate response. This carve-out that we've now entered into with the POA allows for some presumptive issues and the ability to go to a doctor real quick and get a shot or do some things. We're setting a schedule to get that also with the LVFA. So that'll help on those issues, which reduces the amount of time that somebody is sick. Some of the FMLA issues, we're glad to be emphasizing families. So we can't get around those, but, we can, look at it, plan for it, and, make sure that we're looking at some flexibility. So that's been my challenge to both chiefs, is to how can we have some flexibility in the system where we're not being forced into an overtime, we can do something different. And because of our deployment, because we're a small city with small departments, sometimes it's not easy, but the chiefs are doing a great job of looking at that. So, we have to get through these next 4 to 6 years or so, and it's going to be tight sometimes. Again, the current economic times of this country are going to be very interesting to see how it impacts our return on investments, to see what the June 30th PERS, our pension system mark-to-market is. That will severely tell us how things are going, because our unfunded actuarial liability went from 11,000 to about 900,000, and then it's going to go to 1.4 or 1.6 million next year. Those are
making
costs,
me feel even better.
Yeah, those are costs we can't control. So, but I do want to thank everybody, and I do believe that through the increased education, staff is understanding what the role is. This is a great city and a city staff. They love your leadership and your support, and they love giving the services. So, and mostly Mayor Pro Tem Johnson's cookies. So
that will buy a lot. Yes,
it's good. So,
well, I just want to say that, and I was remiss. We've made relationships with our state and federal partners. I know that Chief Nig, I know that Chief Gonzalez. With LA Impact, we have a lot of relationships, and also our staff is really getting really good at grant writing. And granted, we're in an odd time right now, but I know that Susan Rubio just was presenting us $80 million for her particular area for the San Gabriel Valley, for the Regional Housing Trust. also for our regional care center, but also our Assemblymember John Harbidian was putting out hundreds of millions of dollars for the fire situation, and Chief Nig has been instrumental in that also. I know that Chief Gonzalez also in his part, the daily impact also with our state and federal partners. So we're in a really good position. We have some of the finest, if not, I'd say just we have the finest services in this little town of Laverne than any other community. We communicate. We are looked at as the upper echelon, the diamond of the area. We are the role model. And that's true. And I'm not just saying that. We're the role model because our fire, our police, we work so well with all the other agencies. They're looking at us to model. And we're also doing it with dispatch centers with some monies, hopefully from the state or federal partners. So, and I will say that you've done an amazing job. Our previous management, yes, we had similar situations, but the communication and the affiliations with each department is so much better now. Everybody communicates. We may not like what you're telling them, Christy or Ken, but at the end of the day, everybody works together. You can scream and yell, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, shoot, we got to do this. So, again, we have an amazing staff. We have amazing departments. We have amazing fire, amazing police, public works, community services. It's looked at by many other communities like, you guys do this? Nobody does this in our area. Like the Excellent Adventure. I keep going. They said, nobody does this. We come here. That's important. So anyway, great job. Although it sucks what you're telling us, we'll have to get through it. But at the end of the day, we will get through this. I think we're in a precipice of more economic development. They're going to come to our little community. We have more restaurants, more niche shops, things that we're going to do that are going to make this place even better. So I think we're in a good position. Unfortunately, we got to dip into. With that, do we have a motion for resolution to adopt FY 2024-25 budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Item 9 was approved 3-0 with motion by Johnson, seconded by Lau, Cashel, Fagita, and Crosby absent.
Thank you. Public comments. There's no other business tonight, so we will move on to the public comments. This is the time set aside for anyone wishing to address the City Council on items not listed on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The Brown Act prohibits the City Council from engaging in discussion on any item not on the posted agenda. Your concerns are referred to staff or placed on discussion at a later date. If anybody wishes to speak at this time, public comment is open. Anybody wish to speak? Tell us about your jam and all your functions. You're good to go. We're going to close public comment. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Well, the three of us had a good time this weekend.
Oh my God, mariachis! Holy, you got your hair.
Celebrating El Marendero's 50th anniversary in the city of Laverne. Had great food, great drinks, all sorts of fun.
So I have a couple of things. This is a reminder. We still are accepting applications for the utility art box contest for our youth to help design some of our utility boxes in downtown Laverne. So the deadline for that is April 17th. So you can find more information, I believe, on our website as well as on social media. So if you have any young folks in your life that are artistic, that would love to see their work displayed on a utility box, please let them know and have them turn in their applications by the 17th. Also wanted to announce that 4th of July is just around the corner. I know that seems crazy to say that out loud, but it is coming. So the applications are open for float entries. So it is $40 for any nonprofit if you'd like to enter, and $70 if you're a commercial enterprise. This is the first year that our motorcycle Harley Parade will be also taking $5 registrations for each rider. If you're a veteran, it will be free. Tickets will be sold online only this year. We'll be using Zeffy as a platform. They will be $20. So if you need help or need assistance figuring out how to use Zeffy, please let us know early and we can help you out with that. And of course, we are always looking for sponsors so that we can have an awesome 4th of July. So if you're interested, please reach out to the Friends of the 4th Committee and they can put you in touch with the right people. Also wanted to shout out Ken Domer and J.R. Reynolds for their participation. I know they just both looked at me like, wait, for what? I believe they both serve on the advisory panel for the MPA program So that's the Masters of Public Administration program at the University of Laverne. And so that program puts out a lot of folks in this region that work in various cities, government agencies, municipalities, districts, you name it. And it's incredible. It's an amazing pipeline for infrastructure in our region and across the country. So it's a really big deal that we have amazing representation from our city at the university. And hopefully some of those people end up coming to work for us. So who knows? So thank you both. The MPA program did celebrate their 50th anniversary this past weekend. Wait, no, 2 weekends ago? I can't even do math anymore, but 2 weeks ago. So it was a great day. And for those of you who were able to join ULV at Community Day, there was free food. There was 2 baseball doubleheaders, 2 softball doubleheaders. A lot of fun. So these are all events that are happening in our community that are usually free or low charge to our residents. So highly encourage people to get out there and visit. And so I also got a message from Councilmember Rick Crosby, who couldn't be with us tonight. Just a reminder that it is, again, Autism Awareness Month, that to remind everybody that the Autism Spectrum Athletics is having their opening day on April 13th at Wheeler Park, and that the Chalk Walk, or the Chalk Festival, as Sherry also noted, will be this weekend in our city parking lot. So please come out and help support neurodiversity and all the amazing things that we have in our community. You've also heard the shameless plug that Active Transportation Committee is meeting tomorrow. So if you are interested in alternate modes of travel, mobility, green lines and bike lanes, I've learned more than I ever wanted to, and I don't ride bikes. But it is really interesting. So if you'd like to come, the meeting is tomorrow in these chambers at 5 p.m. Tri-City Mental Health will have their next meeting April 16th at 5 p.m. And then just as a precursor, just going to remind folks to the ULV Gala will be taking place on campus yet again this year on May 3rd. That's a Saturday, so there will be some traffic constraints. I'm just going to warn y'all now. It's a lovely event if you'd like to come. It helps promotes and support scholarships for our students. And so with that, I am done. Have a good week. Be kind to one another.
Thank you, Councilmember Lau. They said it all. Thank you, staff, again. You guys have done an amazing job. I know we're dipping into the reserves, but we've got an amazing community, and I really appreciate all your input. You guys are the ones that make it a community that it is, plus our wonderful residents. And the excellent adventure, Yvonne, your staff, Public Works, they were wonderful. Everybody had a great time. All the vendors, I think, did extremely well. You guys did well on the Historical Society. That's one of the most important. But anyway, thank you for all your work, Yvonne. You do a great job, especially with the kids tonight. Nothing but, kudos to you and your team also. So thank you for what you guys do. We love having the kids. That's the backbone of our community. So with that, our next regular city council meeting will be on Monday, April 21st. Study and closed session will begin at 5:30 p.m. Regular meeting will begin at 6:30. As a reminder, upcoming events and meetings are posted on the last page of the city council agenda. We are adjourned at 8:26 p.m. Thank you all. There we go.